Hey friends, welcome to my channel. So today we are gonna see what if Naruto was banished and had INO as slave. Also check out my Patreon page for 18+ exclusive mature content. We will now proceed to the video. It was a beautiful day in Konoha. The birds were singing, the people were enjoying the festival, and a certain perverted sinning was careening through the air. Coincidentally, the window in the Hokage's office was shattered, which was the direction that the sinning was headed away from. Outside the office standing guard, and Anbu remembered hearing the aforementioned sinning yell, "I regret nothing," right before a loud crash and a bunch of shattering glass. The Anbu felt it best not to ask the Hokage what had occurred for his own safety. Elsewhere, a boy with sun-kissed hair groggily got out of his bed. Looking at the calendar, he thought, "Aw shit, it's October 10th. This was the day the boy turned 16, but that's not why this day promised to be terrible. The blonde boy hated this day more than any other day because this was the day that the people's harsh treatment of him became worse. This was the anniversary of the Yondaime Hokage, the hero of the village, sealed a powerful demon into the boy's infant body, sacrificing his own life to complete the seal. Only the adults knew of the nine-tailed foxes, or Kyuubi, prison within the boy, but few to none acknowledged Naruto as a boy. They chose to see him as a monster, the demon that killed their beloved leader, and lived as a constant reminder of what the village had lost. Naruto ate his breakfast, then took a shower. After that, he got dressed and left his apartment, locking the door several times behind him. He snuck through the alleyways careful to avoid everyone who loathed him. Knowing them by heart, he could avoid running into people, usually. Rounding a corner too quickly, he ran into a certain pale-eyed Kunoichi. He and said Kunoichi each fell backwards as a result of the collision. Sorry, Naruto said, hoping it wasn't some drunk who went out demon hunting. Upon hearing his voice, the Kunoichi's face went a deep enough scarlet to make a tomato jealous. "Nah, Naruto-kun." "Oh, hey Hinata, what are you doing here?" asked the blonde boy, as he stood, extending his hand to help her stand up. But Hinata's gaze wasn't on him, it was on the ground before her because the ground had suddenly become completely fascinating. "Hinata, are you okay?" "Yes," she said, flustered, and her cheeks still a deep crimson. "She's really weird." Hinata looked up into Naruto's cerulean irises. Her eyes widened as he began to slowly lean down towards her. Her thoughts raced. Is he going to? Her heart pounded in her chest as her crush's face was nearing hers. "Naruto-kun." Closing her eyes, she tilted her head up slightly when suddenly she felt a large hand wrapped around hers. The instant their skin touched, time seemed to completely freeze for her, even as the boy pulled her to her feet. "Sorry Hinata about running into you, I was darting through the alleys and wasn't looking where I was going. Well, gotta go Hinata, bye," he called, running off. She stood there as if in a trance, completely oblivious to the world around her. Hinata didn't move a muscle as Naruto left. She only recalled his hand touching hers. "Oi, Hinata," the voice of one of her teammates called out. Kiba ran over to his entranced teammate, noticing her stillness. He knew she was always on the quiet side, but he also knew that she didn't freeze without a good reason. The striped-faced boy pondered as to what could have caused this. "Hinata, what is it?" His voice broke her out of her reverie. "Kiba-kun, when did you get here?" "I just walked by and noticed you standing here, spaced out." Quote, Naruto walked past a group of villagers near the village gates. He watched as some people back away and others muttered amongst themselves. "Look, there he is, why is he still alive? If it wasn't for him the fourth would still be here." Quote. Their words stung as if a knife had slashed away at his skin, but he shook it off and quickened his pace. At the gates there stood two people, one relaxed, the other was pacing slightly. The relaxed one was a tall, silver-haired Junin, with one eye hidden behind his headband. A mask covered his face, but it was hard to tell because he held a small orange book in front of him. The pacing one was a Kunoichi, whose pink hair was tied with her headband. She wore her typical medic ensemble as her sea-green eyes darted from the ground she was pacing on to the path that lead to the gates. "Ow, where the hell is he?" cried the frustrated girl. Kakashi merely shrugged to her and resumed reading his book, chuckling every so often in it. As if on cue, Naruto strolled over to them. Walking up to his teacher, he just stared at him, confused as to why the ever-tardy copycat ninja was on time. "Nani, what are you doing here, Kakashi-sensei? Didn't I say to meet here at 9 o'clock yesterday?" Quote, "Yeah, but it's a little after 9 now, and you usually leave us waiting for a couple hours at least." Kakashi just looked Naruto over with his uncovered eye, and shrugged. Sakura spoke up, breaking the silence, "So, what's our mission, sensei?" Quote, "The mission?" the Cyclops ninja asked, confused, putting his book away. "Oh right, that mission. Well, unfortunately the mission was assigned to another squad." "What?" exploded Sakura and Naruto. Kakashi just sighed behind his mask. "Yeah, the Hokage decided that it would be better suited to Guy's team." "Guy's team?" cried the frustrated blonde. "Why them?" "'Cause, well," Kakashi said, scratching the back of his head. "Well, if it isn't my eternal rival, Kakashi Hatake," bellowed a voice from behind them. Kakashi, Naruto, and Sakura turned to see none other than the green spandex-wearing, bowl-cut-styled ninja and the self-proclaimed Konoha's noble blue beast, Guy Maeda, walking over to them, followed closely by his mini-me, Rock Lee. The other two members of the squad, Neji Hyuga and Tenten Hinamori, coming from a completely different direction. Author's note: Tenten doesn't have a last name that I know of in the manga, so I gave her one. If the name bothers you, too damn bad. Thank you, that is all. Sakura decided to ask them why they arrived from another direction instead of coming with their other teammates. "Neither of us felt like marching around with the youth patrol," the white-eyed boy responded glumly. "You know, I can believe that," chuckled Naruto. Then he noticed Lee's approach of Sakura and gave her his typical nice guy pose. With teeth flashing action, he inwardly grimaced, and guessed that Sakura was probably doing the same. "I shall complete this mission swiftly and return to you to prove my undying love for you, my sweet Sakura Blossom. And if I should fail, then I promise to run around the village 1,000 times." Everyone's sweat dropped, well, everyone with the exception of Guy. "That's my prized student," said Guy, with youthful tears flowing from his eyes. "Lee, Guy Sensei, Lee, Guy Sensei, Lee, Guy Sensei, Lee, Guy Sensei." The two hugged as they were surrounded by an ocean background, complete with crashing ocean waves and sunset, leaving everyone to watch. This awkward and, unfortunately, common scene. "No matter how many times I see it, it still makes my stomach churn," grimaced Naruto. Neji decided that he, and everyone else, had had enough of this moment, so he cleared his throat rather loudly to get their attention. Guy faced Neji and bellowed, "Neji, are you sick? Have the flames of your youth diminished?" "No, I'm fine. Let's just get going." Lee began to step towards him but froze when the Hyuga prodigy yelled, "For the last time, Lee, no. I don't care if you want more training, you're not carrying me on your back." Lee looked slightly disappointed but his face brightened as he turned towards Naruto. "I'm sorry Naruto, but Guy Sensei proved himself to be the better sensei. Kakashi may have lost the match, but you should feel too bad because Guy Sensei is the greatest." "Lost the match?" Naruto asked rather loudly. Sakura shot a glare that would make even the dead roll over in fear at Kakashi. "You bet our mission on your childish squabble with another sensei," she said threateningly, cracking her knuckles together, in way that would send shivers down Ibiki Morino, the best interrogator that Konoha had to offer's spine. Kakashi eyed her nervously. "Well, would look at the time, I have a meeting to go to, bye." And with that the copycat ninja vanished in a puff of smoke, leaving a very irked Nin, muttering curses about certain irresponsible, idiotic senseis. Noticing a dark, chilling feeling in the air, Naruto turned to see what every man fears to see, a pissed-off Kunoichi with superhuman strength, ready to explode on anyone who crossed them. Reacting like he usually did in these situations, the blonde threw up his arms in front of him to act as a shield from the pink-haired girl's wrath. Said girl merely stormed past Naruto. He watched her stomp away, his breath caught in his throat as he was too scared to make a sound that might attract her attention to him. He then realized that Guy and his team had long since left, leaving him all alone. He sighed in a depressed tone before putting on his foxy grin and went to his favorite place in probably the whole world, the Ichiraku ramen shop. "Ohio, Ayame-ne-chan." He took a seat and looked around. "Hey, where's your dad?" Looking over at him, Ayame smiled at Ichiraku's best customer and said, "Hello Naruto. Dad needed some more supplies, so he went to buy some. So I'm the one running the shop today. I assume you want your usual." "Yeah, believe it," shouted Naruto with his endless enthusiasm. 12 large miso ramens, coming right up. The dark brown-haired girl disappeared into the kitchen as the smell of hot broth filled the air. "Ugh, how can you eat this stuff day after day?" snarled a deep voice somewhere within Naruto's mind. "Who asked for your opinion, you damn fox?" retorted the irritated blonde. "I don't care if you asked for it or not. You're just a little brat, so show some respect for the king of demons, the mighty Kyuubi no Kitsune." Naruto just rolled his eyes. "Are you finished, fuzzbutt?" The Kyuubi was about to attempt to rip the boy to pieces. But before he could, a bowl of hot steaming ramen was placed in front of the boy. "All right, thanks Ayame ne-chan, itadakimasu." Breaking apart his chopsticks, the boy quickly began slurping up his noodles. After he finished his dozen bowls, he paid Ayame and said farewell. "Ah, that was good," he said to no one in particular, wandering through the alleyways. "Now what should I do with the rest of my day? Maybe I should ask Ba-chan for another mission, or I could ask Ayame if she wants me to help in the ramen shop since she's the only one there." "Hey boss, what are you doing?" called an annoying voice, belonging to a little 10-year-old genin with spiky brown hair. The boy ran over to Naruto. "What's going on, Konohamaru? I saw you walking around, so I wanted to ask why you're not at the festival with everyone. A lot of the village's other ninja are there." "Well, I'm actually busy right now." Quote, "Doing what? It looks like you're just walking around to me." Naruto gulped. He didn't have an excuse to not be at the festival, well, not an excuse he could use, seeing as it was forbidden to speak of the Kyuubi being sealed within him. I'm headed to get a mission, yeah, that's it." "Really? Too bad you have to miss the celebration. Good luck on your mission, boss." The small boy ran off, leaving an extremely relieved Naruto. He left down the alley oblivious to someone's gaze upon him. "I will avenge my clan by killing you, Kyuubi child," muttered a man with dark crimson hair, red as freshly spilt blood. His bangs draped over the right side of face, obscuring the rest from view. The man disappeared as his prey turned around. "What was that?" thought the whiskered face shinobi. "I don't know, Kit, but it's gone now." Naruto chose to return home and make sure his apartment didn't get trashed again. Trying to block out the constant ridicule and animosity from the villagers he crossed paths, he found himself walking along the outside of a flower shop, one that belonged to Sakura's main rival's family. Briefly glancing inside, he passed an open window, then stopped and looked back through the window to see what had startled him. Standing there in front of the counter was what appeared to be a goddess. Locks of long, gorgeous blonde hair cascaded past her shoulders and down her back. Bright blue gems that would put even the most beautiful sapphires to shame made up her eyes. Her full lips were a pale pink, and they looked so soft that you wouldn't want to touch them, for fear that your caress would pass right through as if touching a cloud. Her face was that of an angel, and she had the body to match it. She had wonderfully sloped shoulders and curves that women would kill for and would attract the attention of any man. Naruto's widened eyes traced the person frame. Long slender legs lead up to her shapely hips, then up to her generous bust, though her breasts weren't too large or too small. The blonde boy couldn't pull his eyes away. He stood there just marveling at this beautiful creature. It was then the blonde boy realized that his mouth now hung agape, and who the identity of the woman he had just been ogling was. INO Yamanaka, the blonde girl from Squad 10, who was led by the now deceased Junin, Asuma Sarutobi, and was Sakura's best friend and all-time rival for as long as anyone could remember. She seemed to detect his stare upon her and turned to see whose eye she had caught. Naruto quickly sprinted off, hoping she hadn't recognized who he was, but she had caught a glimpse of his sunshine hair. "There's only one person that I know of with that bright yellow hair," Ino thought, "and that's Naruto Uzumaki." Single quote. So decided to look at other girls, Kit. Well, it's about damn time. Naruto's cheeks flared in embarrassment. "Shut up, fox. And here I thought you had truly set your heart on Pinky." "I said shut up." Quote. Everyone around turned their heads to look at the demon container. Naruto then realized he had yelled that last retort out loud. And from the glances he was getting he thought it best to hurry back home. In his apartment, a sloppily wrapped package sat on the table. He stopped in the middle of the doorway, staring at it as if waiting for it to explode before his eyes. When an explosion didn't happen, Naruto stepped forward and examined the package. Detecting no traps, he read the tag attached to the box. Happy birthday Naruto. Gamabunta said I should get you something special since you're turning 16 and all. So rather than spending my money on you, I got you these, something I crafted with my own 2 hands. The Toad Sage. The blonde stood there looking at the gift. Half of him was excited about what was in it, the other half was dreading what was in it. Slowly and cautiously, he unwrapped the paper to uncover a box. Opening the box, Naruto swallowed the lump in his throat and looked inside to see an all too familiar orange book. On the cover it read Make Out Paradise, Unleashed. Unleashed. I don't remember him writing that one. Single quote. Upon further inspection of his present he realized that there were 3 other books with similar titles, Make Out Violence, Make Out Tactics, and the original Make Out Paradise. But he was currently pondering about the first book that he had received. Eventually his curiosity got the better of him, as it usually did, and he opened the cover to see what his teacher had written. Naruto's eyes bulged as he slammed the book shut quickly, as a small trickle of red fluid dripped from his nose. I can't believe Ero Sennin wrote that. Hey, wait, open it back up, I wasn't finished. The demon fox growled. Perverted fox. What? I'm trapped here in your mind, which is really cramped just so you know, with your raging hormones and mindless dribble. So I think I deserve some kind of reward for being stuck with you. Why do you constantly insult me? Because you're a complete moron. As the argument raged on, a certain Toad Sage watched the boy from his window. Hey, I knew he'd like my gift. I wonder if Tsunade got him anything. Naruto walked through the streets of Konoha. Upon setting foot in the village he noticed that it was deserted. There wasn't a living thing to be found anywhere. Where is everyone? He pondered, scratching the back of his head. There was suddenly a twinge of pain where he was scratching it, so he stopped and looked at his hand. He had sharp animalistic talons at the end of his fingers. What the, Kyuubi, what's going on? No answer came to him. Hey, I know you're there, so don't ignore me. His only response was silence. Panicking he ran up to a store with a window. When he saw his reflection his heart almost stopped beating. The irises that had once been as blue as the deepest oceans were now a dark crimson, and in the middle his pupil was now a long black slit. Fangs protruded from under his lip, and his whisker marks had gotten longer, thicker and much more feral looking. No, it can't be, he stammered, backing away from the store. Something shot past him, cutting his shoulder. What the hell? He turned to see who the assailant was. Behind him stood a shinobi, wearing a typical Chunin ensemble. Prepare to die, demon, spoke the ninja as he spat the last word so venomously that it sent chills down the boy's spine. More people showed up. Most were civilians, though they had hardly ever been civil to him. Cries like, "Kill the demon," and "Avenge the fourth," were yelled. The mob now had completely surrounded Naruto. Many of the villagers had flaming torches, pitchforks, and a whole array of other sharp instruments. One man took a step forward and cried out, "Prepare to die, you vile monster." Those words shook Naruto to his core. "Wait," called a voice from the roof behind the mob. On it there stood a platoon of Anbu Black Ops, each on wearing a different animal mask. Tiger jumped down and walked towards Naruto. The crowd parted as he approached the boy. "It's not the place for civilians to execute him." Naruto sighed in relief, but it was short-lived as Tiger continued his speech. "It's the shinobi of Konoha's job to slay the demon." Shit, thought Naruto, turning to make an escape, but quickly found that he was surrounded on each side by the Anbu. Bird. Don't make it difficult, beast. Dog. We make sure it's over quickly. Ox and Tiger rapidly began forming hand signs. Naruto responded, forming the seal for his standard technique. Shadow Clone Jutsu. But nothing happened. What? Why didn't my jutsu work? Ox. Temporary paralysis jutsu. Naruto's body went rigid, unable to move as he peered at his attackers in fear. Tiger. Senbon Storm Jutsu. A barrage of needles appeared and launched themselves at the blonde boy's body. They slashed away at him, causing numerous wounds all over his skin. The assault continued as the Senbon began to rip deeper into his flesh. Luckily none of them hit any vital points, but that wasn't really any reason to be excited, seeing as pain was coursing through his body like lightning. He sprinted away, going as fast as his injuries would let him go. Why did my jutsu not work? Why aren't my wounds healing? And where the hell is that damn fox? These questions, among others, flooded his mind, as he raced towards the Hokage Tower. Then he saw a person with pink hair walking towards to the tower as well. Sakura-chan, he called out to her, reaching out to grab her shoulder. But before he could get close enough, a sharp jab of pain pierced straight through his back. Several similar stabs of pain joined the first one. Naruto now had a total of 7 kunai lodged in him. He staggered forward before collapsing on his stomach. He could feel his blood dripping through his shirt and down his sides. Sakura, he groaned weakly. Ox appeared next to him, and ripped a kunai out of his back, before thrusting it back in. Naruto cried out in agony as Ox repeatedly stabbed him. Soon Naruto was beginning to go numb. By now Sakura had stopped walking and turned to look at him. He helped me, Sakura-chan. Her eyes held a stare so cold, it would cause a blizzard to freeze in its tracks, but her words, the very next words she spoke, were even colder than her gaze. Die, demon. Naruto's eyes widened when suddenly he felt the kunai puncture him straight above where his heart beat. He tried to yell but, it was too late. No, Naruto yelled as he sprang up from his bed. Breathing heavily and sweat practically pouring from his brow, he clutched his chest to feel his heart beating unusually fast. He scanned his surroundings to confirm he was still in his room. He stood up and looked out his window to see the sun beginning to peek over the horizon. What a nightmare, he said, wiping the sweat from his forehead. Elsewhere, it hadn't been a good night for Sakura either. A team had just returned in near critical condition from a mission. The Hokage had awoken Sakura to help with their injuries, so she spent half the night taking care of a bunch of whiny chunins. They only complained about failing their mission and about how much pain they were in. Now, being a full-fledged medic, Sakura couldn't take her frustrations out on her patients even though she does to Naruto. And that was especially difficult, since Sakura was fairly moody. The reason was, well, let's just say it was that time of the month for her. Finally managing to catch a break, she went for a walk to hopefully get rid of her pent-up anger. But no sooner had she stepped off the hospital property, a loud annoying voice shattered the quiet. Ohio, Sakura-chan. This was definitely not what she needed. She blinked several times before slowly turning around in hopes that it was her imagination. No such luck. She spotted her blonde teammate jogging over to her. Wishing he would keep walking in her mind, she heard the one phrase that he always asked, no matter how badly she reacted to it. Want to go on a date, Sakura-chan? Quote. When those words were spoken, the dam that held her anger and frustration shattered. Which resulted in the storm called Sakura's wrath. No, Baka, why do you continually ask me out? I've never said yes, so what makes you think I'm going to change my mind? Exclamation mark. You're so annoying. You just keep asking me over and over day after day, and I'm sick of it. You're always such a pain in the ass. I would never go on a date with you in a million years. You're just wasting both our times by repeatedly asking. So why don't you just go away? Naruto just stood there, completely shocked, but mostly hurt. He felt like each and every word that she screamed at him was ripped from his beating heart. His gaze fell to the ground, before using the body flicker technique to escape this horrible scene. Everyone that was nearby had stopped to stare at the pink-haired kunoichi and where the blonde ninja had stood moments ago. Even those from across the village that had heard turned to look in the direction of the commotion. Kiba and his faithful ally, Akamaru, were among those close by. Akamaru whined and rubbed against his friend's leg, almost causing him to fall over. Kiba patted the canine's head. Ouch, thought the striped-face ninja. Come on, Akamaru, let's go find Naruto and make sure he's alright. He scratched behind Akamaru's ear before they continued walking. Sakura was an array of emotions. She was relieved that her pent-up frustration was gone. She was angry at Naruto for adding to her frustration. She was upset that she practically ripped her friend apart for no real reason, and she was disappointed that she would actually say things like that to him. She intended to run after him, but she already had used up most of her break now, so rather than face her mentor when she was angry, Sakura walked back to the hospital. I'll go find him later. I'm sure he'll forgive me, he always does. Most people decided to continue on with their lives, ignoring what had just happened. INO was also present and currently staring at her rival. She knew that Naruto could be annoying as hell and Sakura often let her anger get the better of her, but never had she seen the girl react so hostilely. Even the time Naruto had accidentally fallen into the hot springs while the pink-haired girl was there, she hadn't treated him so cruelly. Sure, he spent the next few weeks in the hospital with serious injuries, but never had she attacked him emotionally like that. Standing on the mountain where the Hokage heads had been carved, a blonde boy was gazing over the edge. In the horizon the sun had begun to set. Naruto looked at the ground far below and considered jumping and put him out of his and everyone else's misery. Shaking his head, he backed away from the cliff. It won't solve anything, besides I'd probably survive and then the Kyuubi would heal me, he thought dejectedly, looking up towards the sky. If she doesn't want me here, then I guess I'll do as she said, and go away. Kyuubi was at a loss of what to do. He knew that his container was mentally unstable, so he thought it best to keep quiet until the brat came to his senses. Back at his apartment, Naruto packed up some things that he felt he would need. As he walked out he placed the photo of Team 7 down on its face, much like Sasuke had done 3 years prior. Goodbye, he called softly. He reached the gates, which as per usual was guarded by a chunin. Where are you going? He questioned the blonde. I was told to meet my sensei out in the forests for training, Naruto lied. Do you have proof? The whiskered boy simply held up a piece of paper with Jiraiya's signature and the chunin let him run past. He ran straight ahead, refusing to look back, for if he did he knew he might be tempted to go back. They're back. The person who was tailing me yesterday. Yeah. Naruto stopped and scanned the surrounding area. Come on out, I know you're there. A young man who looked to be in his low 20s emerged from the bushes before him. He had dark red hair that obscured half his face and was dressed in normal shinobi sandals, dark-colored pants, and a midnight blue shirt with an open white jacket on top. When he spoke, his voice contained a sinisterness that rivaled that of the snake Sanin's. So, how long have you known? Since yesterday. I see. Well, it doesn't matter because I plan on slaying you right here and now. Quote, why? The Kyuubi. I know he's sealed within you, Naruto Uzumaki. The blonde jumped back and got into a fighting stance. I also know that you and him are separate individuals, but I will slay that vile demon even if I must cut you down with it. Quote, wait, you're not from Konoha, so why do you hate the Kyuubi? That isn't any of your business, now die. He charged at the demon container with a punch aimed for his jaw. Fortunately, Naruto dodged and struck the man's gut. He staggered back from the recoil of the hit. You're quick. What's your name? Koji Ashura. Koji rolled up the sleeves of his jacket, revealing a peculiar black tattoo on his forearms. From the elbows down past his wrists was a squiggled line that looked like a lightning bolt. On the backs of his hands, where the mark ended at, the line split into 3 other lines, giving it the shape of something similar to a trident. Author's note. Trident as in the 3-pronged weapon, not the gum. So if anyone tries to be funny, I'll sick my editor on you. Those tattoos are familiar. Die, Kyuubi child. Koji sprinted forward. Naruto quickly was ready to defend himself, but right when he got within striking distance, Koji jumped back. Celestial arrow. A ball on golden light formed in his palm and released a blast that sent the startled blonde sprawling back. What the hell was that? Yelled Naruto, getting back to his feet. That was the celestial arrow. It's a type of technique that isn't as simple as the jutsus that you ninjas employ. Its power derives from a source that I, alone, wield. Koji charged again, throwing a roundhouse kick as he went. Naruto blocked it and threw a fist straight at the redhead. Unfortunately for him though, Koji dodged to the side and knocked the blonde back with a powerful uppercut. Quickly recovering, he began collecting chakra and rotating it on his palm. It formed in the shape of a sphere as he darted at his adversary. Rasengan. Heaven's looking glass. Naruto felt the attack intercept something before hitting his intended target, and the next thing he knew it felt as though his arm was being ripped off. Sliding back, He looked down and his eyes widened at the sight of his arm. He had cuts from his palm all the way up to his elbow, winding up in a spiraling pattern, and the parts that weren't bleeding had chakra burns. How the hell did he reflect my Rasengan? Red chakra enveloped his injured arm, sealing up many of the open wounds. But Koji wasn't going to let him finish healing, so he darted at the blonde again. Celestial arrow. Energy showered over the whiskered face boy's body. The red chakra disintegrated and the pain in his arm magnified. It felt as though his limb had been set aflame by the fires of hell themselves. Arg! The shinobi clutched his now limp arm in agony. What did you do to me? Simple. My energy suppresses the fox's power and turns it against you. Because the celestial arrow is a technique created for slaying demons. Damn it. How am I supposed to fight with only one arm? Thought the blonde as he took a fearful step backwards. What's the matter, Kyuubi child? Are you that afraid of me? As if. I'm just getting ready to take this to the next level, believe it. Growled Naruto. Don't make this too difficult. And with that the warriors sprinted at each other. Naruto drew a kunai and thrust it at Koji. Ducking to avoid the knife, his fist connected to the side of the blonde's head. That caused him to kick the redhead's chest, knocking him back. Then launched himself, preparing another Rasengan with his left hand. He thrust the attack straight into his enemy, but Koji lifted his hand and pointed his palm at the blonde's face. Celestial arrow. Both of them went sent flying back away from each other. Naruto lay there on his stomach while Koji managed to get to his feet. Damn, he's still up, he thought as he pushed against the ground in an attempt to pick himself up. You left your village because you are despised for your burden, yet you still cling to life. Why? Why do you want to live? What is your purpose? Koji said, as he struggled to steady himself on his feet. Naruto thought hard, but couldn't come up with an answer, don't know. If you don't have a purpose, then you aren't truly alive. You are hated, by many, most of which you don't know, and it will always be that way. No one cares for something like you. And with that the redhead staggered away, clutching his marred stomach. I will be back to slay you, so for now consider yourself lucky that I underestimated you, cause it won't happen again. The boy disappeared into the darkness, leaving the blonde alone, again. Naruto managed, with quite a bit of effort, to flip onto his back and look up into the starless night sky. Kyuubi, what is it? Single quote. How did he stop your chakra? I don't know, Kit, but we at least have some time to recover and plan a strategy when we meet him again. Though I can't heal you right now because it seems that my power is still suppressed. The following morning back in Konoha, no one really noticed Naruto's absence, save a few shinobi, such as INO and Kiba. Sakura had looked for him the previous day, but when she couldn't find him she thought he might be avoiding her for a while. The guard who had let the blonde boy leave, happened to walk by the hot springs, only to hear a bunch of girls scream, pervert, or just screams in general. He saw a blur, a red and white shoot past him. Now the guard, Kure, was really confused by this. It was without a doubt Jiraiya's signature on that note, but then what was he doing in the village if he was going to train Naruto in the forests? Sprinting to Naruto's place, Kure burst into it, nearly breaking the door off its hinges as he opened it. Quickly scanning the room, he realized that the apartment was empty, devoid of any signs that someone lived here. Except of a picture laying face down. Does this mean he ran away? What's going on? Instantly he vanished, off to ask another blonde the demon cantainer's whereabouts. In her office, the Hokage was working on a pile of paperwork. Translation. She had laid her head down on some papers and was sleeping. Unaware of this, Kure pounded on the doors, causing Tsunade to sit up quickly. Ziha, what's going on? She looked around expecting to see her mousy assistant, Shizune, whom she assumed was the one who woke her as she usually did. Lord Hokage, I need to speak with you, came a voice in between the intervals of the pounding noise. Damn, what is it now? I was enjoying my sleep and now some idiot goes and wakes me up. For a few minutes she glared at the door, hoping the waves of murderous intent would discourage the person staying there too long. No such luck. Cursing in defeat, she walked over and opened the door. What is it? This had better be damn important to interrupt my work. She snarled, making Kure feel extremely uneasy, but he seemed focused on something on her face. Lord Hokage, why do you have a piece of paper stuck to your face? Huh, she glanced down to see a sheet of paper hanging to her cheek. No reason, she said, hastily ripping the page away from her and walking back to her desk. Why are you here? Naruto's gone. Tsunade froze in mid-step the instant those words were uttered. Worry crossed her features, but she quickly regained her composure. What? Naruto's gone, he repeated. I have reason to believe he's run off somewhere. Quote, Naruto's not the type to just run off even if something happened. The blonde commented as she turned to face the Chunin. I know, I've seen some of his mission reports. But I checked out his apartment and it was empty. Quote, he's probably off training with that lecherous fool of a teammate of mine. Elsewhere in the village, said Lecher sneezed. Achoo, some hot babe must be talking about how great I am. I truly am the greatest. Back in the Hokage's office, the Chunin responded, that's he said he was doing, he even had his signature, but this morning I saw Master Jiraiya running away from the women's bath. So Naruto's can't be with him because he left last night. Quote, Tsunade was silent for a few moments, locked in a fierce debate within her mind. At last she came to a decision, and the decision was, to throw her desk out of the window instead of her desk. The glass shattered and the aforementioned furniture went sailing to the horizon. Frantically going over some of the papers on her desk, she found what she was searching for. The list of shinobi that weren't currently on missions. Kure, gather up Kiba Inuzuka and Ino Yamanaka and bring them here, now. Quote, deciding it would be better to follow her instructions rather than have a first-class flight over Konoha, Kure sprinted off. Within minutes the aforementioned shinobi, plus Akamaru, had assembled in the Hokage's office. What is it, Hokage-sama? Inquired the boy with red stripes on his face. You two are to go on a search and retrieval mission, stated Tsunade. This would only be a C rank mission normally, but I'm making it a B rank cause of its importance. Your objective is to retrieve a ninja who left the village at 8:41 p.m. for reasons that we aren't sure of. Naruto Uzumaki. What? Shrieked the blonde standing next to Dog Boy, causing him and his dog to wince and clutch their ears. Well, actually Akamaru covered his head with his paws, but you get the point. When he was sure the Banshee had silenced, Kiba spoke, what do you mean retrieve Naruto? Where did he go? We don't know, but he was spotted last evening leaving the village, saying something about training with Jiraiya. But the lecher has been spotted here earlier this morning. He might just need some time alone to think, especially after what happened with Sakura, the dog nin muttering the last couple words quietly, but the Hokage's sharp ears caught them. What do you mean by that? What happened between him and Sakura? Well, yesterday, I was out walking Akamaru when I saw Sakura walking down the road. Soon enough Naruto came bounding over and asked her out. Quote, that doesn't seem unusual, the busty Hokage replied. That's not all there is to it, spoke up Ino, adding her piece into the conversation. Well, what happened? Stop beating around the bush and tell me, demanded an increasingly frustrated Tsunade. Both Kiba and Ino were silent a moment, then the blonde spoke up. Sakura just exploded on him. I'm not sure why, but she said would never change her mind in million years, and then she told him to go away. The girl looked at her hands folded in her lap. But I didn't think Naruto would leave because of that. I mean, he gets rejected on a daily basis, Kita said, scratching his faithful dog's ear. Tsunade looked at the two ninja before her, before sighing, complete this mission, bring him back. I'll discuss this matter with Sakura while you're gone. Hi, replied both shinobi and a woof from Akamaru, before poofing out of the room. Leaving the Hokage sitting there rubbing her temples. I need a drink. Where did Shizune hide my sake? Naruto walked through the vast maze of trees, his injuries mostly healed up. He headed off in no particular direction, just letting his feet take him anywhere. Hey Kyuubi, how long do you think it will take Koji to recover and come back to try and kill us? Single quote. Hard to say, Kit. He took a direct hit from your Rasengan technique, so he shouldn't return for a while, but his powers are very unusual, so he could be healed now for all we know. I suppose so. Are you going to go back? Single quote. Naruto didn't answer. I'm surprised that no one has come after you yet. The boy's expression dimmed as he gazed towards the ground. It's cause. Flashback. Koji, You are hated, by many, most of which you don't know, and it will always be that way. No one cares for something like you. Flashback release. What he said was true. No one does care about me. Single quote. INO, Kiba and Akamaru were searching through the forests outside Konoha. Bark came from the dog as he sniffed the ground. You catch his scent, boy. Bark arf. All right. Come on INO, we picked up his trail. The boy called as he ran after his faithful companion with the blonde following after them. Ya know, for being such a loudmouth blonde, you're being really quiet. Quote, what did you just call me, dog boy? Nothing. Nothing. The blonde's temper cooled. I'm just worried about Naruto. I can't imagine what he must have felt when Forehead yelled at him. Yeah, but don't be too worried. Naruto always bounces back with more strength than before. Akamaru stopped and began to paw the ground before letting out a whine. What's with him? Akamaru. What's wrong, boy? Bark bark woof. Say what? Exclamation mark quote. Kiba sniffed the ground, then the air. You're right, I smell it too. We need to pick up the pace. The boy and his dog darted off, nearly leaving INO in the dust. Wait a second, what's going on? What did you smell? There's someone following Naruto. What? Who? I don't know, but I also smell Naruto's blood, and there's a lot of it. INO's heart raced when she heard those words. Was Naruto alright? Why is he bleeding, and why does her heart ache so much for him suddenly? Could she have feelings for the obnoxious ninja? She shook her head trying to clear out her thoughts, but a strange sensation remained in her mind as she continued on. Look, the blonde pointed at a small clearing that looked like a monster ravaged through it. The ninjas and dog stopped, and analyzed the damage. Whoa, it looked like a war zone here. INO examined the damage to the area while Kiba and Akamaru took in the scents of Naruto's and whoever he fought's blood. Well, it was only 2 people here. Naruto lost a good amount of blood, but I think he's alright. The other person's scent I don't recognize, so it must be someone from outside Konoha. Meanwhile, Naruto's pace had slowed to a walk. It wasn't that he was tired, he was just deep in thought. But his mental debate got interrupted when he detected 3 familiar chakra sources getting close. Though he recognized them, he didn't know if they would try to bring him back forcefully or not. Increasing his speed to an all-out sprint, he conjured up some shadow clones. They knew what needed to be done, they scattered off in all different directions. Wait a minute, said Kiba, stopping where he stood, causing his furry friend to come barreling into him. As a result of Akamaru crashing into him, Kiba smashed face first into a tree trunk. Ow, he grunted, looking back at his friend who lowered his head and wore a sheepish grin. What is it now, dog boy? Questioned an increasingly irritated blonde. I have a name, you know. That's not the point. What is going on? Why did you stop? Naruto's scent. Suddenly it's coming from different directions. So we can't follow him now. Damn, he must have used shadow clones to throw us off his trail. Quote, back in Konoha, Kakashi was walking around, his nose glued in his favorite pastime. He had just gotten back from a short mission and was due back in the Hokage's office about an hour ago. Something seems wrong, he said to himself, completely at random. He looked up at the sky, then shrugged the feeling away and continued reading. Tsunade had finally tracked down her apprentice and begun the interrogation. Sakura, have you seen Naruto around the past few days? Queried the busty Hokage to her pink-haired trainee, who visibly paled at those words. Deciding to avoid looking at her teacher's eyes, Sakura looked down at her lap, her head bowed slightly. Yes, Tsunade-sama. Quote, when was the last time you saw him? About 2 days ago. Interesting. Sakura, did you know that he ran off somewhere about that long ago? Sakura's posture shifted as her head shot up to look her Shisho's face. Her throat felt abnormally tight as if she was being choked by someone. Panic filled her as was evident as her features tensed. In a panic she blurted out, Naruto's gone. Where? Why? That's what we don't know, so I'm asking you, his teammate and probably closest friend, what you know. Sakura visibly winced, guilt building up deep within her. Well, her voice quivered slightly. When I saw him last he came running up to me and wearing that normal goofy grin, asked me out. Anything else? Quote, the pink-haired Kunoichi swallowed, trying to ease the pressure in her throat, which had tightened enough to make it hard to breathe. I didn't mean for it to happen, she said quietly, her gaze returning to her lap. Her hands gripped each other tightly as if in the fear of death should they be separated. It hadn't been the best day so far, so when he came over I yelled at him. I'm not quite sure what all I said, but based on the look on his face it must have been pretty terrible. Quote, do you remember any part of what you said? The pink-haired girl just shook her head. The Hokage let out a sigh. I'm going to strangle that little brat when he gets back for making me worry like this. Single quote. One could tell that Sakura felt horrible about all this. Naruto hadn't done anything new or unexpected, and she had always tolerated, if you can call it that, his childish mannerisms, so why did she yell at him this time? Naruto, I'm sorry, I'm going to find you and apologize. She stood up and walked to the door. Where are you headed? Off to Sakura? Her mentor asked, as if reading the intentions within the girl's mind. I'm going to find him. No, I have to apologize. If it was bad enough to make him leave, you'd better apologize. Thought the blonde. There's already a team out looking for him. Whose team? Questioned Sakura, turning around to face Tsunade. Kiba and INO. They left a while ago, so you don't need to go. Kiba's one of the best trackers in the village, he'll find him. Sakura remained silent, lost deep in thought. On the one hand she felt like it was her fault Naruto ran off, but on the other hand, he probably didn't want to see her. But then again he always forgave her. All these thoughts swirled around in her mind. Sakura, yes, I'm fine Tsunade, the girl replied to her mentor's unasked question before giving a small, sad smile. Well, I'd better get back to the hospital, just in case they need me. And with a quick spin, the pink-haired medic left. But not in the direction of the hospital, instead she headed to the gates. He walked for what seemed to be hours, one of his hands cradling the wound on his stomach. His palm gave of a faint neon glow, causing his ripped flesh to repair itself. I will slay you and that demon, Naruto. In the name of Takara Ashura, I will kill you, this I swear. Hey Kit, what do you want now? Single quote. Watch your tone, mortal. I'm the great Kyuubi no Kitsune, and you will treat me with respect. Just shut up, insolent fool. Anyways, where are we going? Anywhere, I guess. Are they still following us? Which ones? Any of them? I don't think so. That Koji guy's energy is gone, and we lost the search party. Good. Are you feeling alright after that thing with Pinky? I'd rather not talk about it. Single quote. Kyuubi sighed in defeat, wondering if his little container would get back on his feet soon. Then he got an idea, a great idea. The Kyuubi got an awfully great idea. He wouldn't you like to know? Hey Kit, stop here. The blonde boy came to a halt. Why? What is it? Rest here, you'll wear yourself out if you keep running even with your stamina. But they'll catch up to me. No they won't. Create some shadow clones, one with my chakra. Alright, but you'd better not try anything, the blonde replied, performing his jutsu. 10 clones proofed into existence, but one was different from the others. This one looked more animalistic, more feral and demonic. Feral Naruto. Well, it's not really flesh, but it'll do. The real Naruto almost fell back on his butt, as he looked on in shock. Kyuubi. Relax Kit, I'm just going to distract your pursuers. This is but a small portion of my consciousness, I'm still trapped in that blasted seal in a deep meditation. He and the clones ran off, leaving a very confused blonde standing there wondering what the hell was going on. Time for a little dog hunting, thought the Kyuubi, leading his small brigade through the trees. Kiba, INO, and Akamaru were still on Naruto's trail but had run into trouble when the trail had spread out in different areas. The dog suddenly caught their target's scent, as did his mud-faced master. Hey INO, I caught his scent again. Really? Which direct? Before she could finish her sentence, Naruto bolted out of the bushes, socking Kiba straight in the jaw. Arg! The blonde boy ran away, as Kiba stood up and yelled after him. Get back here you little blonde punk! He snarled before giving chase, his furry friend running after them. Hey wait for me dog boy! Called INO. She was about to run after them as well when the sound of footsteps distracted her. She turned to see another Naruto running off in the opposite direction the other one did. What the? The blonde girl looked back and forth in the directions that the fox boys had run in. She took off after the one she just saw appear, after glancing back in the direction of her teammate and Akamaru. Naruto, wait. Sakura didn't mean that. Truthfully, she didn't know that for certain, but she hoped her rival didn't mean that. But the boy didn't even look back at her, he just kept running. He smirked to himself before jumping into a tree and vanishing. The rustle of the leaves masking the small noise. INO leapt into the tree after him but found he disappeared. He's gone. Shoot, it was another clone. That's it, when I find him I'm going to pound his skull in. She growled. Then she detected a chakra signature nearby. Carefully she approached the presence's location, checking for any traps that might have been set up to keep out unwanted people. Naruto sat there in the small clearing, curled in a ball holding his folded legs to his chest with his arms. Koji's and Sakura's words ate away at him inside. I'm just a pain to be around, it's good that I left. Now everyone else can be happy. He looked up into the empty blackened sky, the stars swallowed up within its darkness. Pinky doesn't appreciate the things you've done for her. You should just forget all about her and move on. Single quote. You're back now. I'll never forget Sakura-chan, she's precious to me. Kit, I hate to do this to you. Well, actually not really. Wait, what are you doing, you damn fox? Naruto yelled mentally, his nerves starting to freak out. His only response was memories suddenly resurfacing inside his head. Everything from his childhood to the present, all his history with the pink-haired girl suddenly sprang forth. Her constant rejections, insults, and beatings played over and over within him. Suddenly he clutched a hand to his head and the other to his chest, gripping at his flesh through his clothing. Then, the final vision emerged, the day Sakura begged, tears flowing down her face, him to bring back Sasuke, the only person the blonde could call his brother and the boy she loved. Signaling that her heart could never belong to him no matter what happened. He let a cry spring from his throat, a cry that sounded as if he was being ripped apart piece by piece. INO heard his call of agony and anguish ring through the forest. It crushed her deep down that one of her friends was suffering in such a way and there wasn't anyone he could lean on for comfort. She watched him flail around frantically as though he'd been struck with some unseen weapon. With all the grace of a cat, but all the tact of a bull, she pounced over to him. She looked into his face, and couldn't believe what she saw. Her shock only increased as he rested his head on her shoulder as sobs shook his body. INO was completely paralyzed. Konoha's ball of boundless energy and bottomless optimism had broken down and reduced himself to crying on her. She wrapped her arms around the boy, seeking to bring him the comfort that he should have but never received. She ran, one of her hands up to his head, tangling her fingers among his sunshine locks. Stroking his hair, INO choked a few tears back herself, knowing that this boy had experienced a kind of pain that no one should have to endure. There he cried, locked in the girl's arms. Once his sobs quieted down, he jerked away, surprising the blonde girl. He looked off into the dark shadows of the woods, tensing up when he felt a hand touch his shoulder. I'm sorry, he said barely above a whisper. She hugged him from behind, burying her face into his jacket. You have nothing to be sorry for. Her grip tightened. If anything, you should resent us for scorning you. He turned around to look into her sapphire eyes, her grip loosened as he did. I can't hate any of you, it's not my way of the ninja. I refuse to hate someone, even if they don't care about me. INO caressed his cheek with her hand. She could sense all the pent-up sadness and misery begin to fade away in the boy, but still had a strong grip on his heart. Under normal circumstances, the girl wouldn't have even considered doing what she did next, but these circumstances were far from normal. She knew this boy had rarely ever received even a compassionate gesture, so she would show him that he was cared about. Lifting herself up on her toes, she leaned her head up and pressed her lips to the boy's. The kiss was short, but sent her heart racing. She could feel the boy's loneliness begin to vanish through her lips. Naruto was so shocked by this display of affection that he couldn't move an inch. The pain in his chest began to be filled with something warm. His eyelids drooped in the sea of emotion that had engulfed him before he returned the kiss right before she pulled away. I can't believe this, what is this feeling? She raised her hand and pressed it to her chest. Why is my heart beating so fast? Could I care for Naruto more than just a friend? She felt a strange heat rush up to her cheeks. She quickly turned her face away to hide when she realized was that she was blushing. The boy just looked on at this girl. No, this angel who showed him tender emotions. He turned away to hide the red coloring now covering his cheeks. A young boy of about 13 years of age ran through a thick meadow. The wind blowing through his thick spiky locks of dark brown upon his head, the sun shining down overhead, reflected in those big emerald eyes of his. He loved these woody areas. They made him feel at peace, plus the animals were friendly towards him. He would climb the trees to see the baby birds chirp at him, as their mother came down to feed them. She didn't mind his presence at all, cause this child had no malice in him whatsoever. Even the wolves, some of the fiercest beasts of the forest, didn't mind him. He would run through the trees with them racing to see who could get farther faster. This was his paradise, but no one can live without human companionship. But he didn't live here, though some say he did. No, he lived in a small village near this haven of his. Koji, come on, you can't spend all day here. A female's voice rang through the treetops. Don't make me come find you. The boy, deciding it best to be obedient, followed the voice back to a 19-year-old girl. Koji thought that she was the prettiest girl of the village. She had a face that seemed to be carved by angels, decorated with gorgeous violet gems for eyes and luscious ruby red lips. Her long hair drifted down about to her nicely curved hips, cloaking her back and shoulders in its darkened blonde softness. Though to be honest she wasn't very tall, standing at about 4 feet 10, but her curves attracted attention away from that. Her bust was fairly large and looked kind of awkward on someone of her height. Ah, why can't I stay here? The boy pleaded. Please, Takarane-chan. Sorry, Koji, but we need to go bathe and get back to the house before it gets too dark out. You want to eat dinner on time tonight, don't you? Quote, yes, the boy exclaimed, jumping wildly into the air. He wanted to eat, as he was starving, but he knew that his sister had another reason for getting home before the sun set. She didn't like to travel, even through places she knew at night. A small fear always had consumed her. Though her fear seemed unjustified in their ordinary lives, the two had been despised by the villagers for the last 8 years. For they had descended from the Ashura clan. The clan had once been renowned and respected as a mighty group of warriors for their unique ability to suppress demon chakra. But tragedy struck this family, when a message from Konoha got to them. It said the Kyuubi was attacking and they asked for the Ashuras to help them. Now the Ashura was a kind clan, not like those stick-shoved up their asses clans such as the Hyuga or the Uchiha. So they willing left. They had heard tales of the fox's strength, so every member of their family went, save 5-year-old Koji, with his older sister, Takara. The Ashuras had been annihilated by the Kyuubi. This was the first time in history that a demon had overcame them. People of their village claimed that the Ashuras didn't try hard enough. Those rumors and feelings spawned into a powerful animosity towards the two children. For nearly the 8 years since the demon fox had been defeated, people treated them like scum. Koji didn't understand their hate, but his sister did. Countless times he asked her about it, but she refused to tell him. He found out when a drunk decided to try and beat up the boy when he was 11. Koji was shocked that he and his sister were hated for such a pitiful reason. He escaped the intoxicated man and took off home, deciding not to tell his sister that he knew. Despite all the villagers' attitudes towards him, he still remained a remarkable young man with a pure soul. After several beatings the boy took, he decided to train himself in the forest, and train himself he did. He grew strong and fast. He followed the example of one of the great heroes from the stories his sister used to tell him when he was younger, and grew stronger to protect Takara from danger. Hey, are you listening to me? The brown-haired boy was yanked from his reverie and back down to earth. Nodding his head, he followed his sister into the village. He glared back at the people leering at them, who kept whispering names that children shouldn't be exposed to at them. He had decided long ago that since he was a boy he would protect Takara, his sister and a girl, sorry if that sounded sexist, from any danger that threatened her. They arrived at the bathhouse. Since no one would stay around them, they often bathed together just as a precaution in case something happened. Ah, this feels good, Takara sighed as she lowered herself into the steamy water. Koji sat at the other side of the room, refusing to look over at her. He was at that age when girls didn't seem that bad to be around, or to look at, or to smell. Too bad his sister knew that he was embarrassed by her nude state. She said looking down at her breasts. I think they've gotten bigger. Koji o Tuto, what do you think? She asked in a mischievously sweet voice. She only called him Otuto when she was teasing her when she needed him to be serious, and this wasn't the latter occasion. He blushed and just continued to look intently down into the water before muttering, I don't know. Quote, are you sure? She slinked over to him in a sultry manner. How about you inspect them a little closer? She said in a sexy voice that gave him goosebumps. Hugging him from behind, she pressed those soft mounds of flesh into his back. His heart to race and his entire body turned crimson. In a panic he broke away from her and darted back into the changing area. He could hear her laughing hysterically at him, but he couldn't retort as now his ability of coherent thought had gone missing. It's not funny, he finally managed to sputter, only causing his sister to laugh louder. She laughed for a while, though the boy didn't like being mocked. He loved it when Takara laughed. When she finally stopped laughing, she called him back over. Come on, I'll wash your back for you. After they had finished bathing, they set off for home. Koji noticed his sister seemed to be unusually quiet. He glanced over to see her expression crestfallen. Either that or deep in thought. Nei-chan, he asked hesitantly. What's wrong? She looked over at him and smiled. No, I'm all right. Koji could tell she was lying, so he stopped and caught her wrist. Takara, tell me what's wrong. I love you and I don't want to see you upset by something. Her smile disappeared. He only called her by just her name when he was extremely serious about something. I know you don't, but it's my burden to bear. There's no need for you to worry about it. He looked up at her eyes with a look that said, I'm not going to give up until you tell. She sighed. I'm worried about the villagers. Why? What they do? No, they haven't done anything. At least they haven't yet. What do you mean? Takara hadn't ever told him about the times she was almost sexually assaulted by the men of the village. She knew her little brother would flip if he heard of such attempts on her personal being. He would run off and do something foolish if she told him, so for his own safety she kept quiet. I have a something I want, but I can't have it because it would be considered to be a taboo. She avoided looking into his face. Do you remember when you overheard that man telling his son about the birds and the bees? Of course he remembered. Hearing that embarrassed and confused him to no end. It got even more embarrassing when he asked her about it. He felt somewhat awkward around her for a while after that. Yeah, he replied, glancing to the side. But what does that do with this? I love someone, with every last bit of my heart. But he doesn't see me that way. I want to be able to give myself to him, through all of the abuse and rape attempts. Takara remained an unkissed virgin. Koji asked about sex before, around the time of the birds and bees incident, and it had been extremely awkward to talk about ever since. She had told him that she wanted her first to be special, with a man who loved her romantically with his entire being. Then she clutched her cheeks and looked away as to hide her embarrassment from blurting one of her most intimate thoughts with her little brother. Tears filled her lovely purple eyes and dripped onto the ground. Koji hated to see her upset. It made him feel completely heartbroken. And when he saw her cry, he felt like his heart had been twisted and wrenched from his chest. He cared too much about her to see her sad. Nei-chan, is there something I can do? He would do anything to help her. She was the one person who had been with him for his entire life, and if it wasn't for her, he would have surely gone mad from the animosity around him. Travel to the ends of the earth, drain the mighty oceans, it didn't matter how impossible the task was. He would do it, for her. I couldn't, she began, but Koji cut her off. Anything, Nei-chan, I will do it. She looked into his eyes and could see his determination, burning like a powerful ember in his pupil. She said something softly, then turned to look away. What? I didn't hear you. Take me, she repeated, still quiet but now loud enough he could hear her. Koji's world stopped turning in that moment. He let her wrist go and backed away. Sister, what are you talking about? That's crazy, I can't do that. I didn't expect you would. But she fell to her knees and covered her mouth with a hand. I don't want my first time to be stolen from me. I want it to be with something I love and who loves me. The dam had broken. She wept. The boy watched as she broke down. He didn't know what to do. What she was asking of him, it was forbidden by many if not all moral laws. Yet she bared her soul to him now, how could he deny her that? It was wrong. But she was the one who gave him everything these past years. She had taken care of him, taught him how to be a good person, she supported him whenever she could. How could he do this to her after all that? But it was still wrong. The argument waged war within him. After a short while, standing back up, she wiped away her tears. I'm sorry, Ototo. I know I could never expect something like that of you. Let's go home. Quote. He watched her continue walking down the path, broken. He followed behind her back home and sat at the table while she began to cook dinner. She wouldn't look him in the eyes now, and he understood why, but it still hurt him. She set food in front of him, and heard him mutter something. She turned and asked what he said. I said, I'll do it. What? She looked directly into his eyes and knew instantly what he was referring to. Her gaze then shifted to the table. You don't have to. You're not obligated to do something like that for me. He was silent for a while. I know, but I want you to be happy. Please don't do it just for my sake, she begged, grasping his shoulders with her hands. Only do it if that's what your heart wants. They ate in silence, an awkward silence that would make a high-strung cat collapse from a nervous breakdown. She picked up the dishes when they had finished and cleaned them. Then left to her room, but before her door stood Koji. Koji, what are you doing? I want to. Really? She stuttered. The boy nodded his head in reply. Jovial tears dripped down her cheeks as she tried to hold them back. He then took her hand gently in his before guiding her into the room. That night, for just a few hours, their brother-sister bond transcended its normal boundaries. It was pretty awkward for both of them, but they overcame it, together, just like they had conquered all the other obstacles set in their lives. The next morning, he lay there in bed with a bizarre feeling in the pit of his stomach. Takara had already gotten up and went to fix breakfast. What was this feeling? Guilt? Shame? Why would he feel this way? He had wanted this, hadn't he? He didn't know what to do. He couldn't tell her about this. He thought she might be offended if he did, and he refused to do something that hurt her in any manner at all. Life went on as it normally did for the next few days. But as each day passed, Koji seemed to get sicker and sicker. He felt nauseous, his tanned skin was now a ghostly shade of white. He was exhausted, and Takara grew more and more worried about him. He refused to let her go into town without him. But she could see he wasn't improving. She felt responsible for his current condition. So about 4 or 5 days after their confession, of sorts, she left him asleep in his bed while she went into the village. Koji sat up as if someone had slammed a hammer into his gut while he lay there. He looked around and found himself all alone. Suddenly he became extremely worried. He sprang out of bed and around the rest of the house. Takara, Takara. He rounded a corner and stared into the kitchen, drawing in deep fearful breaths. Nei-chan, where are you? His heart practically stopped when there was no reply. He took off out of the house, racing towards town. Damn it, she left without me. What if something happens to her? No, I can't think like that. Hard as he tried to shake them, those dark doubts still continued to eat away at him. Please be all right. In the village he was greeted with an abominable sight. There lay her body, stripped of clothing, with unsightly scrapes and gashes adorning Takara's once flawless skin. Her body was motionless, devoid of even the slightest sign of life. She was surrounded with a bunch of men that Koji remembered used to scowl at him. The men stood there laughing about something they found damn hilarious. Koji watched one man pull up his pants. He gasped in the horror of realizing what occurred here. They raped her. They raped her, and he wasn't there to stop them. He hadn't been there to protect her like he had resolved ages ago. And why? Because he questioned his own decision about that night. He fell to his knees as tear flooded down his cheeks. He raised an arm and slammed his knuckles straight down on the stone path in anguish. He heard one of them say, "Hey look. It's that other Ashura brat. Too bad it's a boy. I quite enjoyed the woman. Seriously, it's a shame she was such a screamer though. It's the same either way, whether she's alive or dead." As Koji listened to them, something dark was carved into his soul. Also something deep within his mind snapped as he clenched his fist tightly. You bastards. He charged at one, with all the strength and ferocity of his being. Drawing a fist back, he reared it towards a man, only to be knocked aside effortlessly. Hey look guys, the brat wants to fight. I say we show him a real fight. The others cheered in agreement. Koji stood up and darted at another, yelling a cry full of hate and maliciousness. But he was knocked back again. He heard a strange flicking-like noise. He got up and turned around only to be stabbed directly in his right eye with a shish. Arp knife. He screamed in agony, as the tormentor twisted the blade within his now bleeding socket. He fell to the ground and tried to fight back. How y'all like that, you scum? This is retribution for all those lives lost since your family failed to defeat the Kyuubi. The knife was ripped out of him only to be thrust back into his face. Koji grasped his injured eye with both hands in a desperate attempt to stop the flow of crimson liquid that now flowed freely. A sharp pain shot through his side. The other men now surrounded him and had began kicking him. They beat him non-stop for what felt like hours. He finally lost consciousness, but one thought lingered within his mind. Revenge. His eye flickered open. He saw a white ceiling, like one you'd find in a religious temple. He sat up slowly, pain coursing through his body. What happened? Raising an arm, he grazed his fingers across his right cheek. But he didn't feel skin. He felt something similar to bandages. He pressed his entire palm over his face, remembering the events from the previous day. She's gone. She's gone. They killed her. The men's faces pictured perfectly in his mind, haunting the deepest reaches of his conscious and subconscious. Their accursed images forever etched in his brain. He growled hatefully, then yelled as loud as he could before saying, I'm going to kill every last of them, this I swear. Revenge is not a wise path to choose. He heard from the corner of the room. His gaze darted over to the voice to see an old man. Dressed up like a priest. It seems you are awake. That is good, you've been unconscious for nearly 3 days now. Quote, 3 days, huh? Koji looked down at his hand, clenching it into a fist tight enough that blood dripped from his palm. I don't care if revenge is right or wrong. He stood, I will kill them. I'll make them suffer for the deeds they have done. Quote, you should rest now, the priest said, his voice full of some sense of urgency. Your injuries are still serious. He rushed over to the boy to try and help him sit back down, but his arm was slapped aside. The 13-year-old stared up into the person's eyes. He could feel the hate within the body's frozen stare. It was as if he was being suffocated by a dark tainted malice. Touch me, and I'll kill you. His voice had such an edge, it would have sliced through steel had it been physical. The priest backed against the wall and watched the boy stagger out of the room. Koji struggled to stay on his feet the entire time he was on his way home. Though it still stood, the house had been partially destroyed. He wandered slowly throughout the building. As he entered his parents' room, he heard a strange squeak of floorboards. Glancing down at them, he noticed one was cracked and sticking up slightly. His anger raged. He kicked the board and it broke off and crashed into the wall. His gaze drifted down and what he saw bewildered him. There was something under the floor. He broke off several more boards to unveil a staircase. His curiosity getting the better of him. Koji followed the path. At the end was a long hallway with a strange red door. There was a seal of some kind upon its surface, and something behind the door reeked of power. Slowly he opened the red door and looked inside. It was a large square room, its walls made of stone bricks and had unused torches, but what was really disturbing were the black markings all over the walls, floor, and ceiling. What is this place? He stepped into the room. Suddenly the door slammed shut and the torches lit one by one along the walls. Koji looked around. What's going on? A strange platform appeared on the wall across from him. On it there was a scroll with the character, Ashura, on it. Hesitantly the boy approached it, carefully reaching his hand towards the parchment when it unraveled itself. Its contents now exposed, the brown-haired boy read aloud what it said. The power of the Ashura is close to the power used by monks and Mikos. It is said that long ago a warrior of justice was given these abilities by the god itself. I say itself because I don't know if God has a gender. The power to suppress and injure demons became a trait that was passed down. Though God blessed these powers upon them, they commanded that they help those in need. Author's note. A Miko is a priestess. Koji became angry at this. Why should we help them? They came to us for help, and then scorn us because it was too much for us. Damn them all to hell. He was about to stop reading when something caught his eye. The Forbidden Seal. He read the information that lay beneath that heading. A dark chuckle sounded from his throat. He grabbed the scroll and walked to the center of the chamber. Biting his thumb, he drew the seal described in the text around his feet with the blood. He read off a bizarre chant, and repeated it over and over, faster and faster each time. The markings around the chamber began to slither around like hundreds of ebony snakes. The markings suddenly concentrated on Koji. They slid off the ground up his legs, winding around him. Soon he was covered from head to foot. The marks began to scald his flesh. He cried out in pain as light filled the room, wrapping around him in a mighty hurricane, lifting him off his feet. His pain began to fade, as something else replaced it. What was this sensation? He didn't know, but another feeling came over him. Power. The power to crush his enemies now resonated within him. The light vanished, causing him to collapse to the stone floor. He panted there on his hands and knees, beads of sweat dripping from his brow. Glancing around, he noted that his surroundings hadn't changed at all. Getting to back up, he clumsily walked back up the stairs and out of the room. Passing the mirror in the hallway, he stopped and examined himself. His spiky brown locks now were a deep crimson. Also, he noticed a strange tattoo protruding from beneath his wrappings on his wrists. Removing them with his shirt, he gazed in wonder over the tattoo that had seared itself in an intricate 8 design all over his arms and torso. Laughter pulsated in his belly, then bubbled its way up his throat and burst from his mouth as nothing less than dark maniacal hysterics. The boy wasn't heard from again, not that too many cared. Until nearly 4 years later, rumors spread around the village of sightings of a strange young man with red hair. Some thought it was a bad omen, others said it was some punk looking for attention. But after those rumors surfaced, several men vanished without a trace. Many people refused to leave their houses for fear that a monster was loose around here. A tall burly man with short brown hair left a small restaurant one evening. The owner called out to him, "Are you sure you want to walk home now? What about all the disappearances, Ein? You buy into all that hocus pocus. It's all coincidences, besides I'm the toughest guy in the village. I ain't scared of no stupid fairy tales." And with that the man walked off. It got extremely cold as he was walking, an icy wind blew past him. Ein shivered as another frozen gust came by. But as it did, he heard a threatening sounding whisper. "You're next." He stopped and looked all around him before trudging off. "Stupid punk kids," he grumbled. Glancing up at the moon, he turned down a street. On the street there lay a woman, blood pouring from her shoulder. He ran over to her. He reached out to touch her only to feel cold night air. Blinking, Ein looked again only to find that there was no one there. "Lousy rumors," he mumbled as he stood up. Another gust blew past him, much stronger than the previous gales. He turned away to block the wind, and turned back around to see a figure standing on the road about 10 feet before him. The figure seemed to stare at him, causing Ein some slight nervousness. "Who are you?" he demanded. The figure said nothing, not moving an inch. "You messing with me? Then I'm going to kick your ass." Ein ran up to him with his fist clenched. But when he made to strike, the figure's arm shot out, catching Ein's hand. Now that he was close, he could tell that the stranger was smaller than him and had red hair covering the right side of his face. "What the?" Ein tried to jerk away, but he couldn't, so he reared his other fist at the person but was cut short when the stranger's foot lodged itself in his gut. Ein dropped to his knees, as the man dropped his arm. "Think you're tough, punk? Well, allow me to show you who's tougher." He bolted up to slam into the man, but a hand attached itself to his face and pushed him back. The man finally spoke. 4 years. I've waited 4 years to do this." Quote, What are you talking about?" Ein said in surprise as he was pushed away easily by this smaller person. "Revenge." He looked into Ein's eyes. Upon inspecting the man's face, his eyes widened. "You're that Ashura kid that I met on that road years ago." Quote, "You mean this road?" Looking around, Ein recognized the area as the one that he and a few others attacked that girl. "You're the one behind the disappearances," he growled, pointing an accusing finger at Koji. "Perhaps, but you deserve it since you are just a bag of worthless flesh. Take that back, you little fucker." Ain now stood up glaring at the boy. What did you do to those other guys? I killed them, what of it? Quote. Ain was about to attack when he caught a glimpse of Koji's eye. Suddenly he felt like the world was spinning out of control. He collapsed in his dizziness. He woke up, belly down on a patch of grass. Where am I? In my yard. Came an ominous voice. Ain looked up to see Koji standing before him. What do you want? You're such an idiot. I already told you. Revenge. You think that you can scare me? Fei, yeah, right. Quote. I can do far worse than merely scare you. Before I'm finished you'll be begging for death. Do your worst. Ain spat at him, glaring at the redhead. It'll be worse than that. You'll pay dearly for my sister's death. Quote. She was good. Ain grinned as the boy's eye narrowed before continuing. Yeah, she screamed real loud. That just made it even better. Suddenly his world went black. Opening his eyes, Ain glanced around to see the open night sky. He tried to move but found that he was bound to something. Greetings. He looked over to see Koji standing there next to him. Damn bastard. Your threats are meaningless here. Now hold still. A searing pain shot through his leg as he yelled out in pain. He craned his neck to see that he had metal stake lodged completely through his right shin. Koji stabbed a second stake into the other shin. Again, Ain cried out in pain. Next he had a stake lodged in each of his forearms. The pain was unbearable, coursing throughout his limbs. Now another stake was lodged into his stomach. Ain hacked up a rather large amount of blood as a result of the burning sensations shooting through him. The next thing he knew, he being lifted into the air by some unseen force. Once he stopped rising, he took in his new surroundings and made a startling conclusion. He was now hanging upside down on a large cross. His blood dripped down, forming a puddle beneath him. He felt his limbs begin to go limp as all his of precious crimson fluid poured out of him. What the hell? He coughed weakly. As expected, your mental strength is very limited. Koji's voice commented out of nowhere. What the fuck is that supposed to mean? A huge flash erupted around him. When he could see what happened, he shot up and clutched his arms. In doing so he realized the injuries were gone, but that incredible pain still lingered within each part that he had been previously stabbed. Where are the wounds? There are none. That was an illusion. But that doesn't mean the pain wasn't real. Koji stepped forward. That was only a small sample of what's to come. Quote. Ain lay face down on the grass, stained crimson from his blood. His entire body was so limp, he couldn't even lift a finger. Pain. That is what filled his entire being. Sorrow. His will and soul had been broken along with his body. He had wept tears and begged for mercy but was shown none. His reply to his call of help was, "My sister undoubtedly pleaded for you to stop, but you didn't, so neither shall I. You deserve this suffering." Quote. Now he was being dragged down a stone staircase by the back of his tattered shirt. He heard his tormentor speak again. The final judgment has yet to occur. A door creaked open and Ain was cast inside violently. He now lay on a cold, hard surface. Enjoy your fate. Instantly the door slammed shut and something began to slither around him. Soon pain began to course through his limp body. The pain grew far more severe, surpassing all of the earlier punishments that had been inflicted on him. The air was so thick with malice that it was impossible to breathe. Soon the shadows consumed the very flesh of his being. He cried out in anguish one last time as the darkness mutilated his remains, leaving absolutely no trace. The scream signaled his prey's expiration, so Koji opened the door and stepped in. As he did, the torches once again lit up one by one, illuminating the black markings around the room. At long last, my revenge is complete. At least that's what he thought, but he felt an emptiness deep inside him. Takara, he thought, avenging you has left me feeling empty. Why? Why do I feel so incomplete? Punching the wall, he glared at the ground. Is it because I now have no purpose? The redhead collapsed to his knees. Why? Because you're dead, and it's my fault. Please, give me a reason for me to exist. Make this emptiness go away, Takara. Like you used to. Tears fell from his emerald eye. Weeks later, he got his answer from the priest who had saved him those years ago. He spoke of witnessing horrible treatment of something called a Jinchuriki, a person with a biju sealed in them. Deciding to look into it, Koji discovered that the Kyubi was considered to be the strongest of all the biju. In his research he heard a rumor of the fox being sealed within a human, still alive. He traveled around from place to place gathering any information on this rumor. He ventured for several years before confirming that the monster that was the root of his family's shame was indeed alive within a person. A person from Konoha. Swearing revenge, Koji went to Konoha where he discovered the identity of the demon fox's host. Naruto Uzumaki. Now he stood just outside the gates to Konoha. Prepare yourself, Uzumaki. No, Kyuubi container is far more appropriate. I will unleash the heaven's wrath upon you, demon. You hear me, fox. He shouted his last sentence into the sky, as dark clouds befuddled the horizon. Naruto, did you leave because of what Sakura said, because you should know she didn't mean it? The blonde girl asked, trying to hide her flushed cheeks. It wasn't exactly just her, but what she said hurt deeply. He responded before even thinking. The boy who hid his feelings deep under that concealing mask which protected him from others inflicting pain on him. Then why did you leave? Has something happened? The boy didn't respond immediately. Well, he told her about how people hated him and some of the details, the parts he could reveal without breaking the third's decree, from his nightmare, and then Sakura shattering the final wall that kept him breaking down. But why? Why did they hate you? Why did they treat you like garbage? The boy didn't know how to answer. He looked into her eyes, so full of the desire to understand and cure his pain. His gaze focused on the ground before him. INO, he said hesitantly. Yes. There is an S-class secret about me, and that's why not many are fond of me. INO only stared at him, waiting for him to continue. Her facial expression was one of shock and curiosity. Why would he have a S-class secret? What was this secret? There is something inside me. Something dangerous. INO's pulse quickened as she started to become nervous. Within my body lies a demon. The people refuse to see me, they choose to only see that demon. The blonde girl's shock was apparent as she let out a small gasp. She reached out to touch his shoulder, but he continued. I was sacrificed so everyone could live, he half growled, clenching his fist tightly. I was selected to contain a demon spirit for the village's safety. And then what? He stood up and walked over to a tree, punching it with all the fury that was surfacing. Blood dripped down his knuckles as he lowered his arm. Then everyone would treat me with so much hate that it's suffocating. Those damn villagers refuse to acknowledge the fact I exist, that I'm just some monster that murdered hundreds. The blue-eyed blonde let his pent-up emotions out. All the anger, frustration, sorrow that he had held in for years emerged. He began slamming his fists into the tree's trunk, as it shook in recoil of his blows. Naruto. INO could only watch this boy release the emotions he had hidden for so long by pounding away at the bark of the tree. Anyone with eyes could see that these fellings were destroying him from deep down. She had begun to feel nervous when he said he had a demon in him, but seeing this shattered those doubts. She walked over to the boy and wrapped her arms around him, burying her face into the boy's shoulder. Naruto could no longer punch the abused plant that he was previously pummeling, as now his arms were bound by the girl now embracing him from behind. Then he heard her whisper. Just 2 small words, but those words stopped his rampage dead in its tracks. Thank you. What? Thank you, for protecting us all this time, from the real monster. The blonde boy collapsed to his knees, as did the other blonde. I'm sorry that we've made you go through this. I'm sorry for the pain you've had to endure. I'm glad you're here, still protecting us. Bye. Now she had let tears fall, soaking his shoulder. INO. He turned around and lifted her head to look into her eyes. Cupping her cheek, the boy wiped away the small droplets coming from those sapphire gems. Crying doesn't suit an angel like you. Pulling her against him, he embraced her completely, both physically and emotionally. There in his arms, INO felt something strange. Contentment. She felt more complete here in his embrace than she ever felt before. Pushing her palms against his chest, the girl left his hold to gaze into his bright cerulean pools. Naruto. There you are, called out a voice from the brush. Both blondes looked up to see a man jump down from a nearby branch. Naruto's eyes widened as he recognized the person. Koji stood there, murderous intent pouring off of him. Quickly Naruto put himself between INO and the redhead. Ino looked over Naruto's shoulder to this person whose very presence seemed to demand blood. She was about to ask the blonde boy who he was when she remembered that someone had fought him a ways back. This must be the guy whose blood I found earlier. He's the one who attacked Naruto-kun. Whoa, where did that come from? I guess my feelings are stronger than I thought. I'm going to finish you this time, Kyuubi child. The redhead bolted straight at Naruto. But he stopped short when Ino quickly moved in front of his target. Who are you? She demanded. And why are you attacking Naruto-kun? Naruto-kun. Naruto-kun. Wow, I guess she likes ya kit. Guess that means you can try out what happens in that new book you just got. Then the boy's face flushed a darker red than Koji's hair. Shut up, you perverted fox. My name and motives are none of your business. Now get out of my way, girl. What did you just call me? How dare he call her that? She was a 16-year-old woman, damn it. She was just about to pounce forward to give the jerk a thrashing, when something caught her arm. Glancing back, she saw Naruto holding onto her. Naruto. The girl was about to tell him off for stopping her, until she looked into his eyes. His cerulean irises told her that this wasn't a smart choice for a fight. Her arm relaxed in his firm grip. Ino. This is my fight. Naruto-kun. Koji had enough of this. I said move, blasting a stream of golden light right at the blondes. Ino's eye widened as she turned to see the blast coming at them. The next thing she knew, she was in Naruto's arms bridal style about 4 feet to the right of where they were a second ago. She tilted her head up to see the boy carrying her staring intently at the redhead. The determination that she witnessed in his battle during the Chunin exams several years back was burning powerfully in his irises. Ino. Yeah, get out of here. This bottle's going to be dangerous. But Naruto. No buts Ino. I don't want you getting hurt. So please, get to a safe area. The girl could feel her heart pounding in her chest as he said those words. She didn't want Naruto to get hurt, but she also didn't want to interfere with this fight. He released her legs so she could stand up. Once fully upright, she looked into his blue eyes before running away to find a safe place. She would leave for now, but she would stay close by to make sure he would be alright. Koji. Why is it you hate the Kyuubi? I already told you, it's none of your concern. And with that the redhead bolted right for Naruto, who braced himself for the coming impact. Koji's fist collided with the blonde's arm as it moved to block. Without wasting even a second, he lifted his other arm. Celestial Arrow. Once again the attack sent Naruto hurtling back. Chapter 9. Quickly recovering, the blonde formed a single hand seal. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Several copies of him materialized around him, each one glaring at Koji. The red-headed boy looked from one clone to another before saying, "Is this the best you can do?" Each of the Narutos surrounded the boy and bolted straight for him. "You'll see who's the best when I win." They all pulled out several shuriken and tossed them at the so-called demon slayer. Shuriken from every direction. Child's play. Heaven's looking glass. In a huge flash, each and every projectile had suddenly deflected back to the one who had thrown it. The copies poofed away at being struck, leaving only one. Damn, I didn't think he could block that technique. Frustrated. Kyuubi child. Don't call me that. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. Can you answer my question? Quote. What question? What is your purpose? Naruto froze. What was his purpose? Taking his silence as a reply, Koji sighed. I didn't think so. Bolting straight at the blonde, he sent Naruto reeling with a powerful jab of his fist. Continuing the attack, Koji struck again, this time with a mighty kick right to the demon container's ramen guzzler. Ramen guzzler is his gut, just an FYI. Also I own that analogy, so don't steal it. Cuz I'll sue! Exclamation mark closing parenthesis. Naruto slid back. Was Koji that fast when they first fought and had been holding back, or had he suddenly become stronger? He did say that he'd underestimated the whisker-faced boy after their previous battle. Hey, stay focused kid, he's going to beat you at this rate. Shut up, I'm trying to think. I know, that's what is worrying me the most. Naruto charged at his adversary, throwing a punch only to have it get caught. Taking advantage of the boy's surprise, Koji elbowed him in the jaw. Instantly he doubled over in searing pain. It seemed that the fox boy had struck his stomach where the wound was. True, it has healed over, but most of the damage was still there. Naruto shook off the last blow and summoned some more clones. They quickly took the initiative and brought a thorough beating from every side. Naruto Uzumaki beat down. The clones on each side of him continued this never-ending barrage. But the original noticed something weird. Koji had curled into a ball, and now seemed to be shivering in pain and fear. Fear. Why was he afraid of this? Koji was lost in his own mind. These blows were familiar. So familiar, it hurt just thinking about it. Opening his eye, he quickly took in his surroundings. He wasn't in combat with the Kyuubi container. No, he was getting beaten by that same mob all those years ago. For the second time in his life, Koji felt something deep inside of himself snap. Get off me! Yelling to the high heavens, a huge vortex of energy coiled its way around him, wiping out all the doppelgangers. And sending the real one spiraling back. INO watched from afar as the redhead called up this massive amount of power from seemingly out of nowhere. She clenched one of hands into fist to stop herself from running back to him. What if Naruto-kun can't win? She shook her head. This was Naruto for crying out loud. There was no opponent he couldn't defeat. He was Konoha's most surprising knuckle-headed ninja, damn it. Beat him, Naruto-kun. She called out to him, even though she knew he couldn't hear from this far away. Naruto was completely surprised as well. One moment he had his enemy surrounded and was winning, the next he was knocked back on his butt by a huge wave of power. What is he? Wait, I recognize that energy now. He's in. Oh shit, I thought they were all wiped out. And those tattoos. Man, I'm in some seriously deep shit now. What the hell are you talking about, Kyuubi? Single quote. He's an Ashura. Duh, he said that was his name when we first fought. Single quote. Doh, I should have realized it when I first heard his name. What's the big deal about the Ashuras? The Ashuras were a clan of warriors with the ability to slay demons. As you know, no normal being can slay a demon, but this clan had a special source of energy that could suppress demonic power. Yeah, Koji said something about that when he described that one attack of his. Single quote. Konoha needed help in defeating me, so they called upon the Ashuras to assist them. But they failed to vanquish me, and I wiped all the ones that came against me out. I'd heard after I was sealed inside you that the Ashura clan was no more. So I didn't think there would ever be a time when I had to fight one such as him again. So you killed his family. Wow, no wonder he hates you. Koji came rocketing at the boy, his aura blazing like a twister made of flames. The redhead's fist smashed directly into the ground where Naruto sat, which caused the earth to break and shift similarly to the way it did when Sakura or Tsunade's punch did. The blonde narrowly avoided the hit, but got showered by the flying debris. What the hell? That was practically the same as Ba-chan's punch. It's those tattoos. What's so special about them? They just look like squiggles to me. Don't be stupid, snapped the Kyuubi, causing Naruto to flinch. Those tattoos are the Ashura clan Forbidden Seal. Forbidden Seal, what is it? A special seal that amplifies a normal Ashura's power to a whole new level. But it takes nearly 2 decades to master, so how does he use it so easily? He can't be too much older than 20 years. 20 years. It must be strong if it takes that long to master. It is. Once mastered, its power can be used many different ways. Why is called forbidden? Single quote. Because it is just that. The seal is similar the 8 celestial gates as it destroys the body of the wielder. Suddenly all the power shot back into Koji's body. The redhead stood there, half hunched over. Slowly lifting his head, he opened his eye, revealing a dark hateful stare drilling straight into Naruto's very core. You won't survive this encounter, Kyuubi child. I'll make sure that you'll die where you stand. Quote. The blonde shuddered in fear from the look in the Ashura's eye. It was almost suffocating just being in this person's presence. But he shook his head to try and empty his mind of all his doubts. Like, I'll let that happen, I'll beat you. Multi-shadow clone jutsu. Now there was an entire army of clones surrounding Koji. Get ready, cause I'm going to beat you, shouted several of the clones, before lunging at the redhead. It's not going to be that easy, Koji said, lifting both his hands and pointing his palms in front of him. Celestial arrow. A tidal wave of power washed over all the clones in that direction, completely destroying them. What's the matter? Can't fight me one-on-one. Turning in a different direction, he used the celestial arrow again to wipe out even more of the clones. Soon enough the copies began attacking from each direction, but none of them got close for very long since Koji just destroyed them with his fists. Using the Shadow Clone Jutsu's effect of gaining the knowledge from the ones that disappeared, Naruto could tell that the strength of his punch did rival Sakura's. Shit, that means it's useless to get close, but Shuriken didn't have any effect either, only my Rasengan hurt him. I'll have to use my Grand Sphere Rasengan to win. But I need to get close for that. A clone bolted straight for the Ashura, who raised his arm and said, Zayden Ho. The clone was sent flying back by some unseen force before poofing out of existence. Think the impact dials from One Piece, the Sky Island arc. Your copies are too weak. Come on out yourself. He's right, my clones are too weak, and at this point I'm just wasting chakra. Naruto called out to Koji. Koji, stop this. Avenging the rest of the Ashuras won't solve anything. The redhead stopped cold, then looked to the direction of the blonde's voice. So you know about my clan? Huh, as if I care enough about them to even want to avenge them. Quote, what? Then why are you doing this? It's none of your business. Hey, use my chakra. Why would I do that? Your chakra isn't any good against him. Maybe, but the more of it you use, then it will be harder for him to suppress it all at one time. And it'll increase your strength and speed. Single quote. Are you sure? How dare you ask such a question? I'm the king of demons, I'm always sure. Fine. The clones suddenly vanished, as a malevolent red flare burst from a tree. There stood Naruto, demon chakra forming around his body. Nails became claws, teeth elongated into fangs, pupils turned to slits. His entire body transformed into a much more feral state. Blood-red irises set their sights on the redhead. So you're actually going to use the monster's power? How foolish. Charging forward, Koji threw a punch straight for the cubified Naruto. Naruto caught the fist and felt a burning sensation on his palm. Damn it, it must be Koji's energy. That means I can't stay in contact for too long at a time. Koji jumped back. Suddenly a burst of pain pulsated through his body, causing him to fall to one knee. His breathing was now labored. Damn it, the repercussions of the seal are starting to set in. Lifting himself back onto his feet, Koji was sent flying back from a powerful kick, but it didn't stop there. His opponent charged after him and unleashed a powerful barrage of punches. He had no time to react at all. Take that. Naruto watched as his opponent fell onto his back from his onslaught. What he saw when Koji landed surprised him. The hair that covered the right side of his face now fell aside, giving the blonde boy a good look at his face. The left side that was normally visible looked completely normal, but the right side had horrid scars and other signs of past severe injuries. My God! The demon container stepped backwards as Koji rose to his feet, his hair falling back over his face. So, what do you think? Naruto just looked startled. What do you mean? What happened to you? It's your fault. Naruto's eyes widened as Koji suddenly pointed his palm at the blonde boy, aiming directly at his chest. It's your fault she's gone. Die, Kyuubi. Celestial arrow. Naruto blocked he could by putting his arms up in front of him for defense. Sliding back, the blonde to try to put the pieces of the puzzle together. Kyuubi. He didn't call me Kyuubi child this time. Why? Who do you want to kill, Koji? Me or the Kyuubi? I will make the fox pay for what happened in my life. Because of him I lost the one most important to me. Quote, Koji sent Naruto reeling again with another punch. Who? Did she die during the Kyuubi attack? No. My entire family went to fight that demon. Except me and my older sister. Naruto was silent. Our family was wiped out by the demon sealed in your body. However, I don't care to avenge them. But they were your family. They abandoned us when I was 5. All because of some stupid tradition to always help those who need it. They left us to live on with their shame. My sister and I were forced to endure all kinds of hatred and undeserved punishment, all because we failed to defeat the Demon King. What are you talking about? We suffered for 8 years at the hands of our so-called fellow villagers. Suddenly he stared down to the ground with a crestfallen expression. Takara. She took care of me ever since our parents left. She worked hard to make sure I had everything I needed. She cared for me when I was sick, she taught me many things, she kept me company when I was alone. She helped me cope with the animosity we had to endure. I loved her, I always will. Which is why I'll slay the demon that brought this curse onto me and my sister. He raised his head, now wearing an expression of nothing but pure malice, and bolted at the blonde. Naruto was so surprised by Koji's outburst that he couldn't even react in time when the redhead closed the distance between them and pressed his palm against his chest. Zayden Ho. Pain. Indescribable pain. It first felt like a boulder smashed into him at a couple 100 miles per hour. Then it felt like his body was set ablaze by all the fiery pits of hell themselves. He flew back in what seemed like slow motion, unable to do anything to stop himself. He crashed onto the ground with a loud thud which caused him to spit up a mouthful of blood. The crimson liquid dripped from his lips as he gasped for air. Koji walked menacingly slow towards him and he couldn't stop him at all. Koji smashed his fist straight down into Naruto's stomach, creating a small crater beneath the both of them from its force. His body recoiling from the blow, Naruto spat out even more blood, it practically spurted out of his mouth. It hurts, thought the fox container as he lay there, motionless. Is this the end? It hurts, thought the fox container. Is this the end? INO watched from afar as the strike pounded the boy into the ground. She could faintly make out a red substance spraying out of his body. Naruto. Hey, snap out of it. Kyuubi. That's right, Kit, now get up. I can't. What do you mean you can't? If you don't get up in 2 seconds, I'll... Single quote. Just shut up. I don't need you yelling in my head before I die. Die. I refuse to die here now. Damn it. Just when you catch a break, one little punk is all it takes to make you give up. What do you mean a break? Single quote. Man, you're dense. I'm talking about hitting it off with the other blonde. INO. Naruto. His ears caught the blonde girl's cry. INO. I got so caught up in fighting Koji, that I forgot she was here. Man, she must think I'm pathetic lying here now. Then get up. What? You heard me. Get back on your damn feet and show her your true power. Beat this red-haired punk into the dirt. Single quote. You're right. The blonde rolled slowly onto his stomach, still in the bottom of the crater that he lay in. He started to painfully push his battered body back up to his feet. I have to get back up and keep fighting. I can't die here. I am going to become Hokage, believe it. I know some of you find the American catchphrase annoying, but I think it's used appropriately here, so I hope it doesn't bother you too much. Closing parenthesis. That's it. Now beat this clown up and show Blondie what all you're made of. Prove to everyone that you are a force to be reckoned with. You know, if I didn't know any better, I'd say you actually cared, furball. Single quote. Don't read too far into it. I just don't wanna die here is all. And don't call me that. Koji watched as Naruto struggled to get back up. Don't you know when to quit? He snarled, raising his fist to prepare another strike. No, quitting never solves anything. Suddenly a huge flash of light burst from the demon container. But to the Ashiras and the other blonde watching the fight from afar surprise, it wasn't red at all. It was blue. The light flared up around the boy, causing Koji to use his arm in order to shield his eyes. And thus the battle rages on, quickly approaching its climax. Just for fun, while you're reading the final fight scene, load up another internet tab, then go onto YouTube and play. It's the Final Countdown by Europe. I wrote this battle while listening to this song. Be sure to repeat the song over and over until the fight ends. What's going on? That's not the Kyuubi's power, it's his own chakra. But it's greater than it was when we fought before. How could he summon this much power in such an injured state? The blonde's thoughts mirrored the redhead's. Where is this power coming from? Is it my power? It was then that Yamato's words relayed in his thoughts. To rely on his own power, not someone else's. Yes, I'll use my own power to win. He raised his hand up and clenched it into a fist. I'll beat you without the help of that blasted Kyuubi. Hey. The flash dimmed away and the demon slayer moved his arm from his sight only to spot a fist launch itself into his face, sending him reeling back. What the? He stood back up to see Naruto standing there, looking even more determined than ever. Lucky shot, he muttered, wiping some blood from his lip. This is the end, celestial arrow. The blast shot out and sent the blonde hurtling back into a tree, upon colliding with which disappear. D with a small poof. A doppelganger. When did he? The Ashura didn't even have time to get out of this sudden stupor when another punch struck the left side of his face, sliding him to the side. Throwing a fist at what had struck him, his hand collided with flesh. But the flesh vanished on contact. What? Another one. Damn him. This isn't over yet. I agree. Came 3 voices from around him. What? Koji said, looking around only to catch 3 separate identical blondes sliding at him from every different side. Each delivering a powerful kick up at him, causing him to blast into the air. Only to meet 2 more Narutos kick him headfirst right back to the ground. Damn you, coughed the redhead as he was getting back up. But suddenly one of his feet were grabbed and jerked, causing him to fall to the dirt once more. And the demon Cantainer's attack continued as he lifted Koji back up by his ankle, which he used to swing the boy around, gaining enough momentum to throw him into a tree, splitting it in half. The redhead lay there on his side, his head spinning from the barrage he'd just endured. He glanced over to the blonde and saw him breathing heavily. Struggling to get back onto his feet, Koji doubled over and hacked up an abnormal amount of blood. Holding himself up on his hands and knees, he gasped for air, watching the crimson liquid drip from his mouth into the red puddle he created. He stared at it, clenching a fist tightly in defiance of the pain he was in. Damn seal, its repercussions are getting worse. I need to finish this, and fast. Naruto watched the young man struggling to hold himself, reminding him of his own injuries. You're the one who should give up, the whisker-faced shinobi panted. I know that your seal destroys you from the inside. Koji's response was not what the blonde expected. So what? Even if it does mutilate my body, that won't matter when I send that demon back to hell. With that he stood back up, glaring at the boy. Now, I shall open the doors to the netherworld and cast the Kyuubi inside. Reaching his arms out, completely extended to each side of him. He closed his eye. Prepare yourself. What is he doing now? I don't know, kid, but I got a bad feeling whatever it is. Same here. Suddenly dark clouds shrouded the sky and a cry of thunder in the distance shook the forest. What the? Naruto looked into the blackened sky, and saw lightning shooting down from the dark clouds. A strange wave of some form of energy washed over the battlefield. It was so thick in the air, it was practically suffocating. As this Koji's doing, I have to stop him from finishing whatever it is he's planning. The fox boy charged straight at the demon slayer, when his eyes shot open and he flung his left arm straight up, pointing his open palm towards the sky, his other hand wrapped around his left wrist as if to support. It. Lightning shot straight down from above them, directly striking the Ashura, enveloping him in a surge of raw electricity and bright light. Naruto skidded to a stop and covered his eyes with his forearms. Dust and dirt were blown up from the ground and blasted in all directions away from the blast. When the explosion died down, the fox-like ninja opened his eyes only to see a thick smog-like fog of charred particles surrounding where Koji was standing. Is he still alive? He thought as the smoke begun to clear. There stood the redhead, in the center of a bunch of burnt grass and dirt. And his body was glowing with a darkened blue light, small sparks of electricity discharging off his being. How the hell did he survive? How should I know? Maybe he's a human lightning rod. Now, it's time to finish this. Koji glared over at his adversary. It must be an honor to fall before the most powerful technique that the Ashuras possessed. Quote, all that was a technique. What is the name of it? Ashura Forbidden Seal, Final Attack, Divine Judgment. That doesn't sound too good for us, Kit. I know, but I have to win. I can't die before I become Hokage. Single quote. Naruto once again charged straight for the young man. In a flash, the redhead was right in front of the fox boy. This is the end. Completely taken by surprise, the blonde couldn't counter at all when he felt his shoulder grabbed by the older boy. A painful burst of electricity shot through his body. The pain inflicted by the contact nearly doubled him over in anguish. Screaming out in agony, he popped from existence. A clone? Huh, well, it doesn't matter. That technique won't save you now. Quote, hidden among the brush, Naruto gripped his shoulder in pain. He could feel some blood dripping out over his skin, which he could tell was now burnt. Damn, how did the damage come back to me? As if reading his mind, the redhead looked around searching for the loudmouthed ninja and replied. Your pathetic clones are useless. Now, my divine judgment technique uses the effect of your shadow clone to transfer damage directly back to you. Like a god hunting down those who have sinned against him to deliver divine punishment onto them, so shall this power find you, no matter where you hide. Quote, that means if I use my clones too recklessly, I'll be killed. Pulling some shuriken from his weapons pack, Naruto created some clones to hide among the trees and surround Koji. The redhead walked around, searching for any signs of his opponent. Suddenly he heard a whizzing through the air coming right at him. He jumped forward to avoid the projectiles thrown at him only to glimpse many more coming at him. Having no chance of dodging, Koji threw his arms up to shield himself from being sliced up too badly. I see through your state GY now. You think that if you attack me from a distance, I won't be able to catch you. But there's more to this technique than just hurting you through physical contact, and I now know your location. Quote, what? How does he know? He froze in surprise for a moment, and that's all it took. Koji, as if instinctively, pointed his finger right in the original's direction and shot out a bolt of electricity as if it were a bullet, right at him. Completely caught off guard, time seemed to slow down as Naruto watched the blast come at him. He felt it pierce into the left side of his chest. He felt it pass through his body like a burning kunai, then shoot straight out his back. The pain was so excruciating that it caused him to fall off the branch he was standing on and crash face first into the dirt. As he was run through, all his clones poofed away. Naruto lay there a few seconds before clutching his heart and writhing in pain. Damn, muttered Koji, as he fell onto one knee before hacking up even more blood. The pain is getting worse and it caused me to miss. Naruto slowly stood back up, his hand still clamped to his chest. He's right, Kit. That bolt struck just beneath your heart. I know, damn fox. But now I'm in the open and running out of power. Koji spoke up again. I've had enough of this, I'm going to finish this now. Naruto watched as the Ashura grabbed his left wrist again, holding it out in front of himself. Instantly lightning began to build up in his palm, forming powerful sphere of electricity. Even if I hit a clone, this will kill you. Quote, I've got to counter somehow. Shadow clone jutsu. A doppelganger appeared next to the blonde as he extended his arm to it. Spiraling a bunch of chakra into his hand, it began to take a round shape. Both Narutos bolted straight for Koji. Once the lightning had all been focused into his palm, he too charged at his blonde adversary. This is the end for you. Divine Judgment. Grand Sphere Rasengan. Quote, the moment the attacks collided, shockwaves of lightning and chakra were sent in every direction. The force of the attacks trying to push the warriors apart. Each dug their heels into the ground to try and get firm footing to use against the other. The waves caused by the colliding powers ripped up the ground beneath them. It looked like a complete stalemate, unless one of their wills caved into the others. But from the look of things that wasn't going to happen. Without a purpose, a person shouldn't exist. Koji grunted. That may be true, but I have a purpose. To become Hokage, and protect all those precious to me, yelled Naruto, releasing even more chakra into his attack. Protect those precious. Koji repeated almost as if suddenly put under a trance. Flashback. It was years ago, before Takara had been killed. A 7-year-old Koji sat in a tree, doing something his sister said he rarely did, thinking. Takara is always telling me stories of heroes. But what makes a hero? Is it from birth, or the deeds they do? His face scrunched up in deep concentration. The brown-haired boy didn't even realize his elder sibling had approached the tree he was in. Takara looked up at her little brother and chuckled lightly at his overly serious countenance. Suddenly, an idea came to her, causing a mischievous grin to adorn the dark blonde's face. Silently she crept up the other side of the tree, out of Koji's view. Man, all this thinking is making my head hurt. Maybe I should just ask Takara-ne-chan, she'll know. Suddenly he heard a twig snap behind him. Quickly, the boy spun around and looked at where the noise came from. But there was nothing there. Turning back around, he was greeted by someone else's face right in front of his. Boo! Ow! Losing his balance in surprise, the brunette fell back and off the branch holding him. The next thing he knew, Koji was laying on his back looking up at his sister, trying in vain to hold back her hysterics. That's not funny, Nei-chan. That hurt, he muttered, feigning pain. Oh, it can't hurt that bad. Your head is harder than half the rocks around here. She teased back at him before jumping down next to her Otudo. Takara placed her hand on his head and gently felt over it for any bumps. Feeling none, she ruffled his hair and chuckled. See, you're fine. No harm done. Koji looked up at his sister, just giving him her warm smile. No matter what she did or how much she teased him, he couldn't stay mad when she smiled like this. It was like all his worries melted away when he saw her smile. It was just so calming and serene, like a crystal clear lake. Koji didn't recall his mother very well anymore, but he wondered if this is what a mother's smile was like. But that was a question for a later day. Hey, Nei-chan. Yes. What makes a hero a hero? Takara looked at him surprised. Why do you ask? Well, you're always telling me those stories before I go to sleep. And all of them are about someone who is called a hero. Quote, well, the main reason I tell you those stories is because you won't go to sleep otherwise. She gave him her cat-like grin, the one she did when she teased him or was planning something to embarrass him in some way. I'm being serious, he pouted in a half-playful, half-serious manner. Sorry, but it's just a fairly broad question to ask out of nowhere. Does that mean you don't know? Well, I don't really think there is an exact answer to your question, but she walked over to the tree trunk and sat against E4, motioning Koji to sit next to her. I believe a real hero is one who puts everyone's needs before his or her own. Also, a hero protects those who are precious to them at all costs. Those precious to them, he repeated. But how is someone precious? Well, when someone is precious to you, you care about them deeply and want to protect them from harm. Koji stared at his sister, then up to the bright blue sky above them. Takara looked at him curiously, wondering what all was going through his head. That's what I want to do, he said after a few minutes. What is? I want to protect those precious to me. I want to be a hero, he stated as he stood back on his feet and reached this arm up to the sky, clenching his hand into a fist. The older blonde could only stare at him, mostly surprised at his resolve. Scoffing playfully at his overdramatic display, she stood up next to him and messed up his hair again. As if a squirt like you can be a hero. Hey, I can be a hero. Whatever, Otudo. Takara began to walk off home, before yelling back to him, if you expect to eat, you'd better hurry back to the house. Quote, coming. The boy called back before glancing once more at the sky and back to his sister. You'll see. One day I will protect that which is most precious to me. I'll protect you. I'll protect your smile, Takara Nei-chan. I'll stake my life on it. Flashback end. I'd forgotten what a real hero was. What have I become? The red-haired young man could feel his adversary's power increase, pushing against his own. But it didn't matter, his focus was broken. Within seconds, the blonde's jutsu broke through the redhead's attack, sending the Ashura flying back as the Rasengan carved up his arm all the way to his shoulder. Crashing through tree after tree, he finally stopped as he smashed into a boulder in the middle of the forest. Okay, the fight's over. You can shut off the music now. And for those of you who didn't listen to my earlier advice, for shame, shakes finger at you. As he watched Koji shoot backwards, Naruto's body collapsed under him. Within heartbeat, a certain blonde kunoichi appeared in front of him, catching the boy in her arms before he hit the ground. INO buried her face into the orange-clad shinobi's chest. INO. No response. INO. Are you okay? I'm fine. It was obvious she wasn't, especially since it sounded like she was close to tears. INO. Everything is all right now. It's not all right, she said, pounding a fist into his chest, causing him to groan in pain. You could have been killed. I'm just fine. I can't die until I achieve my goals, he answered with his usual foxy grin. This is serious. What would have happened if you'd been killed? What would everyone who cares about you do if you died? What would Konoha do without you? What would I do without you? When he heard that, Naruto went silent. Single quote. Is she trying to say what I think she's trying to say? I say go for it. Nobody asked you. I don't care if no one did, I still say go for it. Naruto sighed, deciding it better to ignore the arrogant fuzzball. However, his thoughts were cut short as he felt a pair of arms encircle him, holding him even closer to her. If you died, her body shook as she tried to stop the tears from falling. I don't know if I could go on. INO. The boy slowly raised his arms to wrap them around her. You'll never lose me. I'll always be by your side, he said in a soft, gentle voice. Naruto. I love you. She kept her face hidden in his chest as her grip tightened around him. The sunshine blonde looked at her. Maybe he could find happiness with someone else. Someone right here, in his arms. I know. And I love you too. She felt warm, here in his arms. Especially, after hearing him say that. She felt him suddenly pull away. Looking up, INO felt him gently cup her chin and press his lips to hers. As unexpected as it wasn't at all unwelcome. Reaching up, she placed her hands on his cheeks and pulled him closer, deepening the kiss. After a few moments, the couple separated in need of air, each of them sensing two pairs of eyes with their sights set upon them. Further in the forest, the Ashura managed to get to his feet. Severe cuts and bruises covered him almost from head to toe. His left arm hung limply at his side, having the majority of its bones pulverized. He staggered slowly through the forest, desperately trying to catch his breath. Takara, I failed you. All I am is a monster. He heaved, as his breathing began to shorten. Looks like I won't be able to see you again. I don't deserve to anyway. Koji fell forward, laying on his stomach as the pool of blood grew larger beneath him. I hope you're happy, up there in heaven. 'Cause I will be going elsewhere. A gentle voice called out to him. Koji. Straining a bit, he raised his head in the direction from the voice came from. Takara. Pressing his right hand into the ground, the redhead attempted to push himself back up, only to fail and collapse to the ground. Damn, my body is wrecked, I can't move. I'm probably just delusional, anyway. Koji. Come here. His eye widened a bit. It was her voice, but it couldn't be her. She was already gone, but then, who was calling out to him? Scrounging up every last drop of his willpower, he pushed himself off the ground. He had to find out if it was her. He staggered towards the voice. The dying Ashura finally came across a tree with pinkish-white petals falling from its branches. A cherry blossom. It was her favorite. Wait, who was that? There was someone sitting beneath the tree, against its trunk. His vision was so blurred that it was hard to tell who it was. Koji. There you are. Quote. It was her, but how? He reached out as he slowly stepped closer towards her. Tripping on his own heavy feet, Koji fell. But he didn't hit the hard ground. His head now rested in his sister's lap. Rolling over, he stared straight up into her eyes. There was no doubt, it was Takara Ashura, his older sister who perished over 10 years ago. Sister, it's you. But you died. I was unable to protect you. Shish. He felt her gently press her fingers to his lips while the other hand softly stroked his crimson locks. It's okay now, Otudo. You can rest. But, how can you forgive me so easily? I couldn't protect you, and because of that, I've become an abomination. I can forgive you because I love you, Koji. With all my heart and soul. You are my little brother. No amount of bloodshed will ever change that. He couldn't believe she actually was forgiving him. He wasn't sure if he was worth her forgiveness. Slowly he reached up and touched her cheek. She smiled gently at him, that same smile from years ago. Her skin, it was as soft as he remembered it. A single tear fell from his left eye. It is time, Otudo. Quote. Yes, Takara ne-chan. With that, Koji's eye clouded as he drifted away, his arm falling limply onto the grass. Back with Naruto, Kiba and Akamaru stood there. Their jaws hung open. Both were thinking along the lines of, what the hell? First Naruto runs off, then he attacks me out of nowhere leading me on a wild goose chase, and now I find him half dead almost making out with INO. Could my day get any weirder? Naruto and INO stared back at the Inuzuka and his canine companion. Both blondes were blushing knowing that Kiba had seen their little moment. It took a moment for any of them to gather their thoughts. Naruto gave a light cough, breaking the silence before saying, Yo, Kiba, what's going on? Quote. What's going on? The Inuzuka repeated. What do you mean, what's going on? I come out here looking for you when you run away and now I find you here sucking face with INO. The dog-like shinobi ranted for a few minutes. Don't take it too personally, Naruto. He was just worried about you, stated the blonde girl as both blondes just stared at Kiba pacing back and forth yelling about Naruto running off, worrying all his friends only to be found making out with a girl. Taking the opportunity to treat the fox boy, INO healed some of the more serious injuries while Akamaru continued to watch his master march back and forth. Wait, Naruto, what happened to that guy? Huh, you mean Koji? Yeah, him. It looked like he was in a stalemate with you, but then you suddenly broke through his attack. I don't know. For some reason his concentration broke and my attack got through. He flew off into the forest somewhere. Who cares? You beat him. There was no surviving your attack with all the damage he had. That may be so, but he didn't hesitate at all during our battle. So what happened to make him lose focus? Single quote. Whatever. Naruto, are you there? Shaken from his talk with his inner demon, Naruto glanced over to INO. Yeah, just lost in thought for a moment there. By now Kiba was finished ranting, and now observing all the damage to the area. Noticing a trail of broken trees leading deeper into the forest. Hey, Akamaru. His canine companion bounded over, sniffing the ground. Does the scent match the other one that we found at the other battle site? Arf. Good. Then that probably means there's no one else is around here except us. Kiba glanced ahead to see how long the trail was. Man, Naruto really musty have knocked that guy for a loop. Hey Naruto, INO, we should probably check to be certain that guy is actually dead. INO nodded, helping the other blonde get back to his feet. Following the trail, the three shinobi came across a path of blood leading deeper into the forest. Whoa, I didn't think he would live through that attack. It looks like he staggered off somewhere. But I seriously doubt he's alive right now. I agree. Following the splatters of crimson fluids, they came upon Koji's mangled body laying at the foot of a tree. Kiba and Akamaru investigated first, but it was a predictable verdict. He's dead. Arf. Naruto just stared. This person had been trying to kill him. He had a face that only reflected hate, so why does he wear such a peaceful expression now that he's dead? I don't get it either, Kit. Hey, Naruto-kun. Yeah, INO. What should we do with his body? Should we take it into Konoha's autopsy? The sun-kissed blonde thought for a moment. No, let's just bury him here. Quote. But, Naruto-kun, why would do that? He tried to kill you, for no reason. I know, but all grudges are forgotten in death. There's no reason for Konoha to know about him. He told me he was the last of his clan. As he spoke these words, the blonde began to dig into the dirt. Akamaru and Kiba helped dig out a hole, before carefully placing the Ashura's corpse into it. Solemnly all of them covered him under a layer of fresh earth. None of them liked the concept of death, but it was pointless try and defy it. INO took some of the fallen petals from the cherry blossom tree and spread them onto the soil. After they finished, INO and the dog duo walked away, leaving Naruto standing there in front the small mound of dirt. Koji Ashura, I recognized your eyes. They're the eyes that know only hatred because that's what they have been mostly exposed to. I used to have those eyes as well. But I've come a long way since then. True, you wanted to kill me, but I know you were just angry, lashing out at anyone who you thought deserved it. They remind me of a friend's eyes. I want to say that I bear no grudge towards you. In fact, I want to thank you. You reminded me of something that I knew a long time ago, and had forgotten. I came out here because I had forgotten it. Turning to leave, the blonde glanced back the cherry blossom tree. A voice sounded through the trees. Yo, Naruto, what's keeping you? I'm coming. You reminded me that it's not what am I, it's who am I. I am Naruto Uzumaki, the next Hokage. I will protect my all friends forever, as I achieve all my dreams. Single quote. With that, the whiskered face boy ran off and caught up with his friends. On their way back to the village, a familiar chakra signature was getting closer. Naruto immediately recognized it. It obviously recognized them as well cause it sped up to them. Almost instantly a pink-haired blur shot out from the brush and tackled the surprised boy. This earned an angry growl from the female blonde, which did not go unnoticed by Kiba and Akamaru. Naruto, I finally found you. I'm sorry about what I said. I didn't mean it. I wasn't having the best day and I didn't mean to take it out on you. Sakura would have continued on frantically had Naruto not silenced her by placing his finger to her lips. It's okay, Sakura. Naruto replied. I know you were just frustrated, so I forgive you. How can you just forgive me? I pretty much ripped off your head for no reason. Don't worry about it, Sakura. Just, how can you let me off so easy? How about I go out with you just so there's no hard feelings? The pink-haired medic wasn't listening to him, but that was normal. What wasn't normal was her offer though. She was probably just rambling, which meant at least she was truly sorry. And had this have happened a few years back, the hyperactive blonde would have leapt at the chance. But he didn't want pity, he was too mature for that. That an INO cleared her throat rather loudly at the offer, indicating that she didn't approve. The whiskered blonde shook his head. Sakura, he said rather forcefully, trying to get the medic's attention. Which it did. Sakura, as much as I would like to go on a date with you, INO coughed loudly at this, though Naruto ignored it for now. I'm afraid I must decline. Sakura looked as if she couldn't understand those words. Naruto adored her, so why would he pass on a chance to go out with her? And why the hell wasn't he calling her by his affectionate nickname? Sakura-chan. She was so shocked all she could think to say was, why? Quote, well, the blonde began, scratching the back of his head as he did. I have other plans when I get back to the village. With that said, INO strutted over and glomped onto his right arm. Ready to go, Naruto-kun? She asked in a sweet voice. Yep, let's go. Back to Konoha. The two blondes strolled off from there, leaving a mildly surprised dog and Akamaru. Ha ha ha. And a completely stunned Sakura, who was trying to process everything that had just happened. The end. Thanks for watching.